Good morning and welcome to the Committee on Zoning. And will this committee please come to order? At this time, I'd like to welcome our committee members, Councilmember Cordero, Councilmember Dos Santos Tan, Councilmember Kiaina, nice to see you, and Councilmember Wire, and Councilmember Tupola. At this point in time, and Chair Waters, thank you very much for attending this morning. Committee member Kiaina is participating remotely by video conference, and Councilmember Kiaina, in accordance with Section 92-3.7 of the HRS, which is the Hawaii Revised Statutes, please identify each person who is with you and at your location.
There is no one here with me at this location.
Okay, great. Pursuant to Section 92-3.7, Hawaii Revised Statutes, this meeting will be conducted as a remote meeting by interactive conference technology with the following procedures in effect for the meeting. Members of the public will be allowed to provide oral testimony on all items on the agenda in two ways, remotely and in person in the council chamber. Remote and in-person oral testimony will be allowed when the agenda item is taken up. Before testifying, each person shall state their name. Each speaker may not have anyone else read their statement and is limited to a 1-minute presentation on each item. All persons who have registered to testify remotely by video conference or by phone will be called upon first. When your name is called, please monitor your screen and activate your audio feed when prompted. For those who are joining us by telephone only, please press *9. Once more, *9 to indicate your desire to speak. I will identify you by the last 3 digits of your phone number. When your number is called, please press *6 to unmute yourself when prompted. I will then give persons who have not registered an opportunity to offer testimony. Please utilize the raise hand feature in Zoom to be called upon, and some friendly reminders and tips. Video conference from a quiet location, and if you are watching the proceedings on Olelo, please mute your television at the time you are called to testify. When the timer on the screen reaches 0, please conclude your remarks promptly. Once all the remote testifiers have testified, I will proceed to in-person testimony in the council chambers. Persons who have not registered will be given an opportunity to speak following the oral testimonies of the registered speakers. Hawaii Revised Statute, Section 92-3.7, requires all votes at remote meetings to be conducted by a roll call vote unless unanimous. Therefore, I will first call for objections, and if there are any, I will then call for a roll call vote. For those council members participating from outside, which is Councilmember Kiaina of the council chamber, in accordance with the Hawaii Revised Statute, once more of 92-3.7, the meeting will automatically recess if we lose audio-visual contact with you and cannot reconvene until we re-establish contact. Therefore, please announce beforehand if you will be voluntarily signing out of the meeting. Written testimonies, including the testifier's address, email address, and phone number, will be available to the public as described on the posted agenda. As a courtesy, please turn off all cell phones at this point in time. Okay, members and the general public, let's move on to agenda item number 1, Resolution 23-132. This resolution amends Resolution 19-225, Committee Draft 1, to extend the deadline to obtain a building permit for a planned development resort project for the redevelopment of the Princess Kaiolani Hotel on 4.153 acres of land located at 120 Kaiolani Avenue in Waikiki. Members, we have posted to the agenda a proposed Committee Draft 1 version of the resolution. For your information, a summary of the amendments is listed on the agenda. Joining us in the council chamber is Isaiah Sato from RM Towel Corporation, the applicant's agent, who will be providing a brief description for your information. The presentation is available to the general public online as a miscellaneous communication number 392 of 2023. Mr. Sato, please proceed.
Thank you, Councilmember Say and members of the Zoning Committee, and as well as Chair Waters and Councilmember Tupola. I have a representative from the owner here to present on the project. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Mike Takayama, Senior Vice President for Kyoya. I want to thank Zoning Committee Chair Calvin Say, Vice Chair Ty Dos Santos, and Council Chair Tony Waters, and the rest of the committee members for putting our resolution on the agenda. So this morning, I would like to give a brief overview of the Princess Kailani redevelopment project. Because the resolution is to extend the timeline, I'm going to be relatively short on the concept design overview and spend more time on the reason for the extension. I want to start off by saying Kyoya does accept and support the proposed CD1 to resolution 23-132. So when Kyoya started this redevelopment project concept design, there are three core values we looked at. One is Ohana, Pono, and Holina. So Ohana, we take care of our employees like families. So when we looked at this project, the first thing we decided is this is going to be all hotel. And that's what we've envisioned for this project. Secondly, we want to make sure that this project not only supports the employees, but the local residents as well as the guests. So we, in our design, created this open space at grade, which you don't see in Waikiki these days. So I'll share some drawings of that as well. When we come to Pono, we want to do what is right. And so when we went out to the community in 2019, we looked at various ways of how we can improve this site for Waikiki. And so we looked at transportation. So loading that's on Kailani today, we are going to propose it in the on-site in the garage on the ground floor. And we also looked at, from a cultural perspective, to make sure that iwi kupuna is respected. So we'll share some drawings of that in our concept design. And lastly, the last core value is Holina. We want to leave a lasting impact message, and obviously Princess Kailani is the name of the hotel. So in our design, we made sure that her legacy is perpetuated. So as you can see, as proposed, this project contemplates a full demolition of the existing structures, and as you can see on the northwest corner, we have a single tower, 350 feet tall. As I mentioned, it's going to be all hotels with approximately 1,000 feet. Oh, sorry, I need to reintroduce myself. Michael Takayama, Senior Vice President for Kyoya. Excuse me, so the single tower is going to have 1,000 keys. And on the southeast corner, as you can see, it's going to be a 6-story podium. We're going to have 2-story retail with meeting space above that, and then an infinity edge pool on the rooftop. And then connecting to it, and I'll show you in other slides to come, is the lazy river pool. This is another perspective from the Kailani Avenue looking at a direction. As you can see on the left-hand side is the podium. To the right is the new parking structure that will have 695 stalls. As I mentioned, the iwi kupuna will be situated right in front of the parking structure off of Kailani Avenue, and we're going to make sure we respect that location. We also, going back to the Princess Kailani's history and culture, we want to make sure that we replicate what was her Ainaha Estate entryway or gateway. And so as you can see, there's a lot of greenery on that entrance to the right over there, and so we're going to continue to perpetuate her legacy. On the left-hand side is some renderings of the pedestrian experience. We want to make sure that in this redevelopment project, we're going to activate the street side with retail. Above there, you have some restaurant space. To the right is the opening into the site. As I mentioned, we're going to have this open courtyard. I wanted to make sure that it's inviting, welcoming to guests as well as the neighborhood. And then the last slides on the renderings, you have the kind of up close on the left-hand side, the entrance into the Princess Kailani project from Kailani Avenue. So on that right side of that left-hand picture, you can see there's just some grass there, and we're going to have some native plants to keep the iwi kupuna. And then on the right-hand side is that open courtyard that I mentioned, which is going to celebrate, and we're going to have stage performances, hula, different cultures being celebrated. We're also going to celebrate Princess Kailani with having a legacy library that will honor her legacy for this site. So that is the overview of the concept design. I just want to jump straight into when we reached out to the stakeholders back in 2019, it was across the board. We wanted to make sure this project was going to be supported by the community. And so in 2019 of November, we received the full approval for this PDR under Resolution 19-225 CD1 and then the WSD in December 19. But we all know March of 2020, COVID hit us with all airlift being shut off. Governor Ige at that time declared emergency proclamation. We had to make the difficult decision to close all our hotels on March 25. With that, we also made the difficult decision to furlough approximately 3,200 employees. Although we did cover their benefits during the closure, it was definitely a tough time for all of us. And during that initial 12 months, this is where, owning a hotel doesn't stop with, just running it. During close times, you have to pay all the bills from rent, utility, maintenance. And so we depleted all our cash that was earmarked for this Princess Kailani redevelopment project. And then at that time as well, we had the Sheraton Waikiki room renovation, which was probably 75% completed, but we made the decision to complete this because Kyoya is here for the long term and wanted to ensure that we had a finished product. And then lastly, the initial impact through COVID, we applied for PPP. Unfortunately, with the rule changes, we needed to return the money back because we did not qualify. At that time, we also wanted to make sure our employees were supported. We did many initiatives, including food drives. We got gift cards from Foodland, support local business. We also did a lot of these testing sites as well as vaccination sites on property to ensure our employees are safe. We also communicated to our employees during this difficult time. And we didn't just stop there. We went out to the community as well to support vaccination on-site testing as well. And so what did we do to come out of this COVID? Obviously, the impact was longer than we all expected. So one of the other difficult decision we made is to put mortgage debt on the Princess Kailani to sustain the cash flow for our company. And we actually put over $100 million of debt on this property. And we also had to work with the lenders at that time for our other loans. And so by working with our ground lessors, even City and County, we truly appreciate deferring the property taxes. We all came together, and that helped release some of the financial hardship. But it wasn't until finally in November is when we reopened our hotels in Waikiki. We also have one hotel in San Francisco that opened later in 2021. And then I know the resolution CD1 23-132 is for the 6-year extension on the building permit deadline. So I'd like to explain the reasons why. And there's basically 8 reasons. One is that although we are seeing that the mainland visitors are beating 2019, the matter of fact is that the Japan arrivals are still at, as of 22, only at 13%. And for Kyoya, our majority of our business, or half, was through Japan, and only last year we had 3%. So as we look at the future, the recovery for Japan is slow and going to be going to take some time. We also know, the government just raised interest rates today, another 25 basis points. So with that, we know there's a lot of construction costs, inflation that are continuing to drive prices high right now. We also know that for a project this size, it's very difficult to get financing as well. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we have this big loan at PK that we are trying to pay off, and we're looking at a 6 years pay down. And then Number 7, Kyoya doesn't only own Princess Kailan. We have the Sharon Waikiki, and we also have other hotels we're planning to renovate. So the Moana and the Royal Hawaiian. So we are going to continue to renovate those during that period of time before the construction start for the Princess Kailani. And then the last one is the currently Princess Kailani generates significant jobs, local jobs, as well as tax revenues. And so by, although it's, the development is going to get pushed back, we are definitely impacting and contributing to the economy. So I know there's not much time, so I'm going to skip a lot of these slides. This is just to show you how small Japan is. Japan is represented in the red. The U.S. mainland is in the blue. So as you can see, U.S. mainland came back, but Japan is still a small fraction of what it was in 2019. And again, this is just from UHERO. You can look at the what was submitted, but basically the forecast for Japan is being revised down from 42% of 19 levels in 2023 to now 37. And we're forecasting even a lower recovery for 23. And this is some headlines of how the U.S. mainland, although it beat 2019, we're starting to see a slowdown. So just taking some articles from the newspapers, 10% down in April, another 5% down for U.S. West in May compared to 2022. This is just to speak to the construction costs. Just over the 3 years, it's gone up about 15%. And with the supply chain issues, we continue to see those prices elevated. And I'll skip this because there's a lot of. This is the slide again. The last point that I'd like to make. Currently at the Princess Kailani, with the hotel or retail tenants, we have about 541 people working here. They have careers that they count on each and every day. From a county tax revenue, taking the latest assessment values for property tax, as well as the 3% TAT, this site alone contributes just under $7 million. And then you look at the state tax, another 11.6. We're talking about $18.5 million of tax revenue being contributed. And I like to compare this to, maybe a vacant lot probably doesn't generate as much jobs or tax revenue, but Princess Kailani continues to generate the necessary jobs that we all need for this community, as well as tax revenues to support services here in the County of Honolulu. So that's my presentation. Thank you for your consideration. Open up to any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Takayama. Before we continue on with the questions from the council members, I wanted to say thank you for giving us a short presentation in regards to what was adopted in 2019. For the record, at this point in time, the only council member that knows about the project itself is Chair Waters. The 8 of us were never a part of the discussion. So with this particular presentation, you're at least fulfilling your obligation in educating us on this particular project, basically for a 6-year extension. So at this point, the chair would like to open up to questions from the council members. Please, Council Member Cordero.
Thank you, Chair Say. Thank you very much for your presentation. I would like to know about how your project will assist in the greening of infrastructure, especially in preserving the greening and the lowering of heat from buildings in Waikiki.
Thank you for that question. In terms of the building materials, obviously, Kyoya will be complying with the latest building codes, and I believe that through our sustainability initiative, we will be reducing how much temperature that's going to emit. In terms of open space, we are looking at increasing the open space from the current, I believe it's just under 20%, but we're looking to increase it to almost 29% or 51,000 square feet of open space at grade. In addition, we're looking at creating more open space above for, I believe, a total of 69%. So that's, I believe, higher than the typical WSD requirement. So by creating more open space, we think we could create more green initiatives. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of other initiatives that we will participate, but those are some of the main ones.
Okay, thank you. My next question is relating to parking. The required is 592, is that correct? And you're providing 695. Why are you providing more?
Thank you for that question as well. Correct, yes, the required is 592. We're looking at 695. Currently, the Princess Kailani and the Moana Surfride. Moana Surfride actually relies on the parking stalls at the Princess Kailani. So as we think about the future, with the over 1,000 keys, we're going to have larger rooms. So we anticipate more families, more number of people coming to the property. We're also increasing the retail footprint from the current size. And so there's going to be more people coming to this location. And for those reasons, we wanted to ensure that we have ample parking. Currently, I can tell you with the U.S. Mainland, we are full at Sheraton Waikiki, Princess Kailani. So we have to close off the parking garage at many days. So thank you.
Of course, with the density of Waikiki and the surrounding areas, that we would like to see more multimodal transportation be heavily focused at our properties, especially if we are redeveloping areas. So I was wondering, I guess, in addition to giving even more parking, which we could have just given the required amount, right? And then just increase the access to modal transit options. What other multimodal transit options are you offering? And are you going to push it? Are you going to advertise it a little more heavily so that not all the spaces are needed?
Yes, we are, as part of our PDR in 2019, we are required to, excuse me, add bicycle parking stalls, as well as work with Biki Share or similar type of bike ride share and have it on site. So yes, we are looking at not just strictly cars coming in, but also other transportation modes as well.
Okay, thank you. And for the parking, it is kind of in its own footprint. In I guess another part of the property, right? It doesn't take up like part of the space in retail or hotel spaces, right?
Correct. The parking structure that's being proposed in this 2019 concept design is exactly where the parking structure is today. And so we're just going to rebuild it, and then we're going to add a new lazy river pool on top to make it more usable from that standpoint. But correct, we're not going to take away from the current, whether it be hotel or retail.
Okay, and how much parking is currently allowed at the current site?
I believe we have just over 500, about 520 stalls around there.
Okay, thank you. And because you are offering a lot more parking than required, I was wondering how are you going to mitigate? I know it does say that you are mitigating traffic and I guess access by vehicles into the property, but what are the updated, access to help with pedestrian safety?
So one of the key things what we're doing with this property is we're going to have all the bus loading, the delivery, the garbage trucks all go into the parking lot from the Mauka side. And so what that's going to do is going to create just a lot of less conflicts between pedestrians and cars. Because currently you have the buses loading on Kailani, you have the loading trucks coming onto our property by the parking garage, and there's a lot of conflict. And so by putting everything either in the new parking structure for the group bus loading and then the delivery trucks in the basement through one entrance, we believe that that's going to reduce the conflict as such, create a more safer environment for the pedestrians.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for answering that. And yes, thank you for coming before us for the extension of the deadline.
Thank you.
Okay, any further questions from the members? Councilmember DeSantis Tam.
Thank you. First, a compliment. I was going through the testimony, and I'm impressed by the broad community support for this project. We often see, opposition and some contention when there's development in Waikiki, but the testimony is uniformly positive, and I think that speaks to the outreach efforts that you've done with Waikiki stakeholders, our labor friends, et cetera. My question is, I understand that there will be changes to the traffic pattern on Iolani Avenue coming down the line, and I wanted to clarify whether this is because of your project or this is something else, because I'm sure people who go into Waikiki when these changes happen, may be surprised, and I don't want them to unnecessarily blame you.
First off, it takes a village, a team to, move a project like this. So I do want to recognize the Kyoya team, Jason Ito, Yasu Ishikawa, as well as our consultants that are here today. To answer your question, we do have a condition in our PDR that requires us to cost share with the Kings Village developer on the two-way conversion. The latest conversations we've had with the Hilton Vacation, which is the developer group, is that they're looking to start the two-way conversion, I believe, next month or September. And what that project entails is basically restriping the lane so that you can have, currently it's two-way going Mauka and have one lane going Makai, and also changing the traffic signal. We are reviewing those plans as we speak to make sure it's safe for the existing Princess Kai line side operations. But I believe right now Hilton is taking the lead on working with the consultants as well as a contractor.
Councilmember DeSantos, Sam, are you finished with your questions? Okay, Councilmember Tupola.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here with us today and for the comprehensive and thorough presentation. To follow up with Councilmember DeSantos' TAM question, I thought it was a huge feat to undertake changing that road to a two-way because it's been one way for so long. So are you saying that it'll probably be completed in what is suggested prior to you guys even completing the building?
Correct. So in the Kings Village, which is a separate PDR, they had that, and that was back in, I believe, before our PDR it was approved, so it was in theirs. And then when we came to council for our concept design, it was added in as a condition where we would work with them. And so you're right. So because they are going to move quicker on their project, they're looking to implement the two-way conversion sooner than was originally anticipated.
Good. Well, hopefully it'll help to start the traffic pattern of new movement in that area. I was also impressed by the listing that you had of all the outreach that you did, including to the council members throughout the years. I would encourage that as the years pass by, because 6 years is a long time, but many people come in front of us and say, oh, we met with so-and-so, we met with so-and-so, but you had a nice little list of days, who you met with, what you did for the outreach, so that was impressive. I also wanted to applaud you on adding more parking stalls, even if it's not for those people who are staying there. I do see that you're going to have a ballroom there. Lots of local hotels are used for local events like graduation parties, baby first, conferences. So hopefully that'll be good because it's always congested in Waikiki. And lastly, I also appreciated the community benefits package that I believe upon the certificate of occupancy, you guys would be giving $500,000 towards possibly crime or homelessness.
Correct. I believe the $500,000 Kyoya will contribute, but it would be up to the council to determine how to best use that. So we have been talking to Bob Finley at the neighborhood board, Ricky at WIA, to understand what the major issues are. And one of the key issues that we found, we're experiencing personally, is the homeless, crime, the safety, as well as the climate change issues. So that's top of mind now. We still have some time to maybe some of those priorities might shift, but those are currently the top.
No, it's great. I mean, with Safe and Sound Waikiki being announced and with us needing more help there, that will be great. That slide in regards to indicative construction costs, Honolulu 5-star hotels, in that particular slide, are you just trying to demonstrate what the change is in dollars for square footage for that? I just wanted to know the takeaway of that.
Yes, merely that is to show how much prices have increased during COVID due to the supply chain and inflation. So it's really more on the percentage change more than, although the actual cost to build a hotel is enormous, but the takeaway there is more of how quickly the prices have gone up.
Yeah, true. And you guys, I mean, it sounds like, and I'm sure it was such a huge feat to even just survive through 2019 and 2020 because of COVID. So I applaud you guys for still being on your feet after all of that, and anything else that, we can do to help, because obviously that's jobs for local residents that are trying to work in the industry. So thank you for this presentation. That concludes my comments. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further questions? Chair Waters or Councilmember Wire? No? Okay, Chair Waters, this is part of your
Yeah, sure.
district.
Thank you. Good morning. Just curious, so you're asking for a 6-year extension to get all your building permits. What's the normal extension time?
So I think we've seen various extension requests for different time frames, around 3 years or so. So for this project, in the PDR, there's actually a 1-year administerial extension that we could have worked with through DPP. We, or Kioya, really looked at the hotel and the financing for the project, and they wanted to be realistic, and realistically 6 years is what works best for the hotel and the project. So we decided to come directly to council and ask for that request.
Okay. The project's great. We would love to get it up and running sooner than later, but you're saying you need the 6-year extension because of COVID, and you depleted all your resources that otherwise would have gone into the construction of the new hotel. Is that correct?
Correct. And in addition, as I was mentioning, we also have other projects that are at the Moana Surfrider, the Royal Hawaiian, and then we'll come back and then do the Princess Kailani.
Okay.
And during this period of time, it doesn't mean that we're not going to reinvest in the Princess Kailani for the short term. We'll continue to reinvest in there where it makes sense.
And in the meantime, the hotel is still open,
Oh, yes.
generating revenue.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. And I appreciate the revenue that you folks generate. Real property taxes, almost $5 million. County TAT, $1.7 million. So thank you. And happy to support. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Okay, any further questions for the council members? The chair has a couple questions. Mr. Tateyama, can you explain to the members of the council and the general public at large, what is a renovation cycle? How long is a renovation cycle takes for a particular property, hotel property?
So typically, you would be anywhere for 7 to 10 years is when you would start redoing the hotel room renovation. And so if you look at the Moana Surfrider, the last time we did a major renovation was actually 10 years ago, where we did the rooms, and then the Royal Hawaiian as well. So obviously Princess Kailani, we haven't done a major renovation because we're anticipating this redevelopment.
Okay, and the next question is just the overall financing of the project. I'm just happy that there will be at least 4 members who will be here in 2024. So by then, what can you share with the council members how far this particular project may be on the 6-year cycle plan that you have presented, the extension? What I'm getting at, Councilmember Wire, Councilmember Waters, Councilmember Okimoto, and Councilmember DeSantos will be here in 2024 just to get a status report. As far as have you folks broken ground, your financing are all in place, so that we feel comfortable that you are going to meet your 6-year extension deadline. That's the concern.
Thank you for that question. I think definitely a reasonable question. So what we're looking at from now till 2029, so for the first 3 years, 24, 25, 26, we are going to be working on the design documents. We stopped all our design documents right at the onset of COVID. So it wasn't like we're continuing on. So that's one. And then once that's completed, obviously we will need to work with DPP on the permits, and that permit review is going to take a couple years. So 27, 28, and then we're anticipating breaking ground in 29.
Thank you very much for explaining it to the general public and for the council members as far as what the process that you folks have to go through in getting the building permits, you see. Okay, and my one final thought.
Yes.
For this particular major renovation of the Princess Kailani, do you have a ballpark figure of what the cost will be?
Ballpark, wow. I mean,
you know why I'm scared? Because of your presentation in regards to the cost of construction going up every year.
I mean, I think it depends on the range, but it's going to be probably north of 600-700 million.
Okay, so that's a good investment from this family that's trying their best. Any other questions for Mr. Takeyama? If not, thank you very much. Best wishes, and I hope you folks do succeed by 2024, you'll know if they get the building permits or not. Tyler and Tommy and Matt and Val. Okay, thank you.
Thank
But
you.
always remember, the other five will be back also.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, members, at this time, we have the administration, Ms. Dawn Takeuchi Apuna.
Good morning, Chair, members of the committee, Donna Puna. We do not have any objections to the request for extension of building permit for Kioya Ka'iolani, and I'm here for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the director? If not, in support also. So let's proceed on with the remote testimony. Madam Clerk, do we have any remote testifiers?
Oh, Chair, testifier is not logged on.
Okay, let me call him first. This first testifier by remote is Mr. Rick Agid of the Waikiki Improvement Association. Mr. Agid, are you on? Okay, if not, any more remote?
Chair, there are none.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we'll move on to the clerk. Okay, is there anyone else standing by remotely to testify?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. If not, let's move on to the in-person testimony. We'll now proceed with in-person testimony. Clerks, do we have any in-person testifiers?
Yes, Chair, there are in person.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Pane Meatoga III. Please.
Aloha, Chair Say, members of the committee. Pane Meatonga III, Community Liaison for the Hawaii Operating Engineers Industry Stabilization Fund. You have my written testimony. I'd just like to add on that, you know, the current focus of tourism is destination management. And that means creating the best experience for our visitors, not just them and also our community members. For Waikiki, that means redoing the product, redoing Waikiki so that it appeals to our visitors that come down. I see this as an opportunity for the hotel and developer to make Waikiki better than what it is. I can't help, in 2005, my first job out of college was to visit all the activity desks from Kapahulu all the way down to Ala Moana. And so I got to walk all up and down Waikiki for 3 years. So I got to know the ins and outs of every little nook and cranny of that place. And to see hotels being redeveloped, to have more open spaces, to have places for people to sit down and actually cruise, not just for visitors, but for locals as well, is a good thing. And so for that, we support this project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Meatoga? If not, we proceed on to Mr. Nathaniel Kinney. Mr. Kinney, are you in the audience? Oh, Mr. Agid, you're here. We called you in regards to the remote. Yeah, we called your name, but you had your name on the list as a remote testifier. But that's okay. It's good to see you. Okay.
So I had always intended to come if I could. I really appreciate the council's time. This is a really important project to Waikiki, and I think that all the effort that has gone into this by Kioya certainly shows up in their presentation. You have my written testimony, so I won't reiterate that. I just want to say that we really look forward to this project going forward, and we think it'll be a really landmark project in terms of adjusting to sea level rise and climate change. The factors that are built into this project make it one that will be important to Waikiki for the next 40, 50 years. So we would urge your support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Rick Agid of the Waikiki Improvement Association? Okay, if not, let's move on to Mr. Nathaniel Kinney.
Apologies, Chair. I had to use the restroom. I didn't realize the presentation was going to go so long. Nathaniel Kinney for the Hawaii Regional Council of Carpenters in support of the project and in support of the extension. Kioya is, like how they said, they're here to stay. And I think it's just notable that the money that would have went to this development actually went to go to pay for furloughed workers' health benefits. I think if we had more employers like that in Hawaii, we'd be doing a lot better. So again, Hawaii Regional Council of Carpenters in support of the project and the extension. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Kinney? If not, Mr. Jeffrey Matsutsugu.
Good morning, Chair, Council members. I'm Jeff Masetsugu. I'm here this morning representing 4 labor management cooperation funds. That's the Painters Union, the Drywall Tapers, the Glazers, and the Floor Layers, and their signatory contractors. Chair, you have my written testimony in strong support of this measure. I'll just stand on that written testimony.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Matsutsugu? If not, nope. Thank you. Mr. Gino Sequoia?
Morning, Chair,
Good morning.
Council Chair Waters, and members of the committee, council members. My name is Gino Sequana. I'm the Executive Director of the Hawaii Building and Construction Trades Council, which represents 18 construction trade unions throughout the state of Hawaii, testifying in strong support of Kioya's request to extend. We worked with Kioya for over 20 years. They've been an integral part of the Hawaii's visitor industry. This project will be a tremendous upgrade to the visitor infrastructure product in Waikiki, and while still respecting the beauty and culture of Hawaii, it will also create much-needed jobs during the construction phase and increase tax revenue for the state and the county. So again, Hawaii Building and Construction Trades Council in support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Sequana? If not, if there is no one else in the council chamber, is there anyone else who would like to testify at this point in time in the council chamber? Okay, let's go with Ms. Young.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, and the City Council council members. Angela Melody Young, testifying on behalf of CARES, Community Advocacy Research Education Services. And I wish to comment, and don't ask, I'm in costume while I testify. So they talked about their building and the development, and I wish to comment that there should also be consideration to consult with the Waikiki Business Improvement District. The board of directors include business owners and also hotel owners. So the Waikiki Improvement District is an association, is a product of strong business, government, and community collaboration, working towards its long-term goals of clean, safe, vibrant resort destination area, reflective of our culture, and it's welcoming to both visitors and residents, and contributes to the economic prosperity of Oahu. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ben, please, from Local 5.
Aloha, Chair, committee members. Ben Sadowski with Unite Here Local 5. We would stand on our written testimony in support of this project, and I would just note, I think unlike some projects, I think that this is very encouraging because it is an all-hotel project. It's not condo hotels, it's not, some other thing like that. And we feel like Kioya has been a good community partner and has worked with the community and worked with us over the years and been pretty transparent in what they're hoping to do. So, but yeah, otherwise we'll stand on our written. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Ben? No questions for Ben. Okay, Mr. Brian Lee.
Aloha, Chair Say, Vice Chair Dos Santos Tam, council members. Brian Lee, Hawaii Lesset. I'm pretty glad didn't follow the witch. So.
Oh boy, let's retract that statement.
Anyway, thank you very much for this opportunity to testify. We're going to stand by our written testimony. But I also wanted to, since I'm sorry, I may not be here for the rest of the session that long, but we also want to express our support for Resolution 23-160, the Hawaiian Homelands Stanford Carr Bolodrome Project, and also agenda item number 8, which is Reso 23-62, the redevelopment of the KGMB TV station site. So thank you very much for your time and appreciate your support.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lee. Anyone else wishing to testify on resolution number 23-132, please?
Good morning, council members, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair. My name is Joby North, Vice President of the Hawaii Laborers Union, Local 368. I'm here on behalf of Peter Ganabon, our business manager, secretary treasurer, who wished he could be here today to express why we strongly are in support of Kioia's requests to the Committee on Zoning. The PK project has been delayed due to the pandemic, which was unfortunate and out of our control from back in early 2020. It created financial hardship for all industries and even our small local businesses, whom some were forced to close, sadly. The state of Hawaii depends on 3 factors to keep our economy stimulated, which are tourism, our military, and construction. In this case, Kioia-owned properties are a few of many hotels that generates income through tourism for our state, but was badly impacted. And this is more of a reason why we're asking respectfully that our council approve Kioia's request to extend their permit for the PK project to 2029 on behalf of Peter Ganabon and our nearly 5,000 members and retirees. I thank the Committee on Zoning for allowing me to speak here today. Sincerely, the Hawaii Laborers Union, Local 368.
Thank you very much. And please convey my best to Peter. Okay, is there anyone else in the audience that would like to do an in-person testimony? If not, members, are there any questions? Before I ask one of the members, I'll look at Councilmember Kihaina. Esther, do you have any questions for any of the testifiers? Nope, okay. Councilmember Wire, any questions?
No, Chair. Mahalo.
Okay. Councilmember Cordero? Chair Waters, no questions? Councilmember Dos Santos Tam? Okay. And Councilmember Tupola, no question. Great. So at this point in time, members, we are in, wait, is there anyone else in the council chamber who would like to testify? Please come forward to testify to the testifier's podium and state your name for the record. Any of the other members would like to testify? If not, okay. Members, at this point in time, we are in discussion in regards to resolution 23-132. Okay, if there is no discussion, the chair recommends that resolution 23-132 be amended to the posted committee draft 1. Is there any discussion? Any objections or reservations? Hearing none, the resolution has been amended to a committee draft 1. At this point in time, the chair recommends that resolution 23-132 committee draft 1 be reported out for adoption. Any discussion, objections, or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Thank you very much for all the testifiers who are here. Thank you very much. Best wishes for Kioia. And let's move on. Members, to agenda number 2, Bill 41, 2023. This bill addresses wind machine setbacks. This amendment to the land use ordinance is being severed from Bill 10, Committee Draft 1, in order to consider it separately. I will defer to the introducer of the bill, Councilmember Wire, for an explanation.
Mahalo, Chair. It simply addresses the setback conversation we've had for turbines, given that Bill 10 is postponed, and just attempting to implement what I think has become a consensus in the community about what an appropriate setback is for folks in the industry and the community, and that would simply be what Bill 41 is intended to do. Mahalo.
Thank you very much. At this point in time, members, I would like to offer a friendly amendment to Bill 41 of 2023, which is Councilmember Wire's measure. In Section 2 of the bill, the last sentence of the revised ordinance of Honolulu, 21-5.700A, before the semicolon, add the language including any renewal or extension thereof, and delete the language after the semicolon. This particular wording would clarify that the term of the power purchase contract may include any renewal or extension of the term. I'll be happy to answer any questions that the council members may have at this point in time, but the goal and objective was to allow them, the utilities, to be given the opportunity of extending their power purchase agreements with the utility company. And that was it. But Councilmember Wire, please.
Not so much question. I actually appreciate Chair's insight
yeah.
and intent, but may comment on it if
Yes.
you'd allow it.
Yes, please.
Okay. I think my request would be to simply delete the language after the semicolon,
Yes.
but not make any additions. I think the intent of this bill was to implement the setback as agreed upon, by labor community, the industry, and the rest of the community. I appreciate Hawaii State Energy Office's testimony, noting that the 3 wind farms that we do have would continue in the current PPA they have until 2031, 2032, and 2040. I do want to mahalo those stakeholders for the community benefits that they've been providing, right? I think that AES has been working diligently with the administration on the recreation center and the pool. Brookfield reached out and we had a conversation. I know that they'll be talking to admin as well about how they can participate in community benefits package. I do think that, just through the conversations that I've been having with the industry, I think there's a lot of questions outstanding, right? Whether wind is in our energy future, whether there's going to be other places on Oahu that it's going to be contemplated, or, whether it's simply going to be relegated to Ko'olaloa for, as we all know, a variety of dynamics. And I do think that with Bill 41 in the language as written, or if as amended to remove the language that Chair referenced, but not add additional language, would allow us to answer a lot of these questions, right? What does our wind future look like? What does a potential continuation of this project look like? And, after the 20 years has gone by, I think that would be a good opportunity for additional conversations with the community, because the landscape is going to look very different, right? Understanding all the challenges we're facing with sea level rise, with infrastructure, particularly in Ko'olaloa. What are the needs going to be? What is the impact going to be at that time? I think given how far out that timeline is, and given that we seem to agree right now that across the board a 1.25 setback is appropriate, and given that, as far as I'm aware, there's not any negative financial implications for any of the stakeholders, that would just be my request.
Okay.
Thank
got
you,
it.
Chair.
Councilmember Kiaina, please.
Chair, thank you. As you know, this issue has been contemplated not only within the context of Bill 10, which it's still in, but also Bill 55 from 2022, introduced by Councilmember Tupola. And I guess I just wanted to ask, what is the difference between the two? Because we did have a hearing on that bill, and it hasn't gone to full council yet. And so what's the direction between the two bills, Bill 55 and Bill 41?
Bill 45 dealt with if there is a need for replacement of equipment and parts, they do not have to come before DPP for their permits. This particular measure was trying to address these particular projects that are in operation at this point in time, that they are tied to the power purchase agreement, that they could do some changes, they could do some replacements, but the footprint is still the same. The idea is basically, are we as a council in strong support of alternative energy, which will then make it difficult for the producers if they have to come back to the city for their permit process. That's the only reason why I had this introduced, because this is an issue that we talked about 2 years ago.
No, I'm not talking about, I'm sorry, Chair, I think maybe it's a miscommunication. I'm not questioning your amendment. I'm questioning the difference between why are we moving Bill 41 when there's an identical bill, Bill 55 from 2022. There's not much of a difference between the two bills.
If I may.
Okay, you want to respond, Councilmember Wire, this is your measure.
Yeah, I would just, note that we have been discussing the other measure, and it was amended to specifically include, or rather exclude from the setback, any renewals of PPAs. And so specifically, Bill 41 is written, would not allow that at this juncture. I hope that answers Vice Chair's question.
Thank you for that. Can I hear from Councilmember Tupola?
Councilmember Tupola, yes, please. Your measure.
Point of order. So just
The agenda, the item's not on the agenda.
yeah, I'll just comment on Bill 41.
Okay, just 41.
Yeah.
But you can add in what your particular bill was.
Yeah, I support Bill 41. Obviously, the language is the same. I do think that what Councilmember Wire is saying is also something that I support, is that we had introduced this, and this is, Councilmember Sunioshi to Councilmember Wire, to discussions that hovered around wind energy and Makakilo, which is why we started to get involved on the west side. So I guess the conversation still stands, is all of us, even just 1 year ago, were all for the 1.25 setback.
Yes.
And what the community is voicing out is that they would like for this not to include the language of renewal or extension thereof. Now, when the windmills need repair and maintenance during the current power purchase agreement, that's all fine. Bill 55 said that, Bill 41 said that. So no repair and maintenance will be prohibited during the time when they have that. What we are asking is if there can be that integration of the community's voice, asking that there not be the verbiage of the renewal or extension thereof. What the KVA or Kuku Association was saying was that they were concerned that when the agreement concludes, that they would like it to conclude because of the proximity to the school and to the housing in that area. So however this moves forward, it was, I think when Councilmember Aina brought it up, it's because we already had 55 in third reading. However this moves forward is fine, but I just wanted to reiterate that I do support the community's position and that we are hoping to preserve their voice in whatever legislation moves forward. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councilmember Cordero.
I support Bill 41.
Okay. Councilmember DeSantis Tam.
I'm not sure who would be able to answer this question, but let's suppose, there are currently agreements that allow these, wind farms to generate electricity. HECO buys that power, the PUC regulates it. At sort of towards the end of the lifetime of these projects, I imagine it's the PUC and HECO and the operator having a negotiation to extend it. So that's kind of their decision to extend the lifetime beyond the existing contract. And so if we were to change this language, but they were to extend it anyway, and they were found to be out of compliance, what would happen? I don't know if anyone can answer that.
We'll probably ask the people who are here to testify to, respond to your questions. Okay? How's that? So at this point in time, we haven't heard from all the testifiers, so can we proceed on that? This is the draft that is before us. And, excuse me, we have also the Director of Department of Planning and Permitting next. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Chair. DPP has no objections to the current draft, as well as we would look at your suggested amendment, but I don't think we have any specific red flags on it at this time.
Okay. Any questions for the Director? Councilmember Wire.
Thank you, Chair. Director, I know you're in the room. Did you hear Councilmember Dos Santos Tam's question earlier?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, there might be some preemption issues with the POC, but I don't know the details. It's a legal issue that.
Understandable.
Yeah.
Mahalo, Chair.
Okay. Any further questions for the director at this point in time? They are open to the committee draft 1, or they're in strong support of the original draft introduced by Councilmember Wire. Let's proceed on. At this point in time, Madam Clerk, can we proceed on to remote testimony? Do we have any remote testifiers? Okay, we have Mr. Micah Munikata.
Chair, testifier is not logged on.
Okay, so next we have Mr. Greg Shimokawa of Hawaiian Electric. Please introduce yourself. Greg, are you there? Oh, we can't hear you. At this point, we can't hear you once more. Can you maybe speak at this time? There you go.
Good morning.
Yes,
okay.
Please.
Apologize for that. Good morning, Chair Say, Vice Chair Dos Santos, Tam, members of the committee. My name is Greg Shimokawa. I'm Director of Renewable Acquisition at Hawaiian Electric. There's just some comments, in addition to our testimony. Just wanted to start by saying, Hawaiian Electric does not oppose the majority of the proposed amendments in Bill 41, including a setback at 1.25 miles. But I think we just had some comments about the current language and appreciate the discussion this morning. And I think we would like to see, both Councilmember Wire's draft as well as Chair Say, your draft of what this bill would look like. We do have some concerns with that added language. I think that's what's after the semicolon as discussed about, the caveats to, including repairs and maintenance. And I think we would also, prefer to have the chair's version of language about extensions to existing power purchase agreements, similar to I think the CD2 version from Bill 10 from last year. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to testify this morning.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Shimokawa. Members, any questions for Mr. Shimokawa of Hawaii Electric? Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone else?
Chair, there are none.
Okay, let's proceed on to the in-person testimony. Oh, we don't have anyone also? No. Oh, Ms. Young, can you summarize your statement?
Yes, Chair. Angela Melody Young testifying in strong support. So wind is a form of solar energy, turns it into energy. And 3, the rotation of the earth. That's what causes wind as a form of solar energy. This is from the Department of Energy, the federal government's website. So wind is a renewable energy source, something to invest in. It is environmentally friendly. Wind turbines harness energy from the wind using mechanical power to spin a generator and to create electricity. Not only is wind an abundant and an inexhaustible resource, but it also provides electricity without burning any fuel or polluting the air. In closing, creating a setback to protect this natural resource and to harness this energy is ideally a good thing. Thank you.
Solar industry. Thank you very much. Any further discussion, members, at this point in time? If not, okay. So at this point, members, we are in discussion. Any discussion? If there is no discussion.
Chair.
Okay, Councilmember.
I guess the nexus behind my question is, this is obviously a tricky issue. It deals with state jurisdiction, and that's why I think that your amendment is actually a good one, because I think that helps to clarify. But if we do end up moving this forward, I do want to get clarity on this, because I don't want to get the community excited that, when the project is at the end of its lifetime, that's POW, that's it, no nothing, and then we find out later that, well, there's some other, state issue or something else, and I don't want people to come into this and be.
The community has been kind of waiting for resolution of this. Also support Councilmember Tupola's bill as originally introduced. I know there's been amendments. I know ultimately, if it does get deferred today, that we'll be discussing it in Bill 10. But my preference would be for it to move along, but I do agree that there are outstanding questions that need to be answered the one brought up by Councilmember Dos Santos Tam, the ones I brought up earlier about what our future really looks like in terms of wind energy and if that's going to be a shared burden or a burden placed on just one community, the conversation about what future commitments are going to look like, because this whole conversation and what's going on now under the PPA is what's impacting the community now, right? And so if we're going to be looking at future impacts, I think when that new PPA comes up, that would be the time to do it.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Any further discussion? Councilmember Tupola, please.
Thanks so much, Chair. Yeah, I'd also want to just iterate that in the discussions regarding the wind turbines in Kuku, which are 18 years out on the renewal. Now, there are other wind farms that maybe the renewal is coming prior to that, right? But if we're just talking about the community that wants that to conclude there, and I've said this to HECO, I know that they're listening, I've been to their facility, I think it would behoove, the energy movement to work with the community to find a replacement green energy kilowatt source. So say, for example, these wind turbines are taken off of the amount of green energy produced for the state, then we have 18 years to find a new source of green energy so that we can still hit our 100% renewable goals. So I do understand that we're trying to make a policy that would apply to all of them, but I really feel for the people in that community that have asked multiple times for it to conclude there. So I know that that's a separate conversation, but I think that would alleviate a lot of the hurt that they are trying to find resolution through this piece of legislation. So I do also support not including the renewal or extension there, but I hear what you guys are saying. I do think that in 18 years, the conversation will be starkly different. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, at this point in time, listening to the discussion, the chair would like to recommend that we just pass out the Bill 41 as is. But I thought with the CD1, you'd have another opportunity, members of the zoning committee, to hear all sides. At this point in time, the future of alternative energy is such a major part of the overall equation. Everybody wants us to get off of fossil fuel. What are the alternatives? Solar, wind? I really don't know. But what I'm getting at is let's have this kind of a discussion, because at some point we have to cross that path. And also the fact that I'm very disappointed none of our producers were here. Not even the PUC was here to have this type of a discussion. And that's why I'm telling my chief of staff that we've got to get a better mailing list of all impacted parties, because we are not against green energy. I thought this concept was to support green energy for the perpetuation of that particular project that is out there in the country. But recognizing the concerns of the committee, we'll go back to the original draft, and at this point in time, the chair recommends that Bill 41 be reported out for passage on second reading and scheduling of another public hearing. So there will be no discussion on the committee draft 1, which I had introduced, if that's the will of the committee. So any discussion, any objections or reservation? Oh, yes.
Yeah, just quick discussion. So I just wanted to note, I appreciate Chair's insight and intent, and I appreciate the movement of the bill. Do want to acknowledge that the providers did reach out prior, and we have had conversations. Mahalo, Councilmember Tupola, for engaging in all these stakeholders for past several months as well. And so just wanted to let the committee know we'll continue to talk with the providers and other interested stakeholders as well. So mahalo, Chair.
No, thank you very much. I truly believe, I wish the Office of Energy was here also, Chair Waters and council members, but it's okay. We have an office in the MD's office in regards to energy, and they're not here also, so probably they're not in support if they're not here in presence. But okay, we had discussions. Any objections or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. So this particular measure will be once more heard. Moving on to agenda number 3, Bill 23, 2023, This bill amends the building code of the City and County of Honolulu to further address fences. I will defer to the introducer of the bill, Councilmember Cordero, for the explanation.
Thank you. This relates to the building code where it adds the state of Hawaii operated airports, harbors, and maintenance yards. And I want to thank the State Department of Transportation for working with my team on this, as well as Chair Say for hearing this.
Okay. Did everyone hear what Councilmember Cordero stated for the record why this particular measure was introduced? Okay. Members, at this point in time, let me state for the record, on April 20th, 2021, the State Building Code Council adopted the 2018 International Building Code with state amendments, which will be referred to as the 2018 Hawaii State Building Code. Each county must amend and adopt the 2018 Hawaii State Building Code no later than April 20th of 2023. If a county fails to amend and adopt the 2018 Hawaii State Building Code by April of 2023, the 2018 Hawaii State Building Code becomes applicable as an interim county building code until the county amends and adopts the 2018 Hawaii State Building Code. The Department of Planning and Permitting is currently working on amending the 2018 Hawaii State Building Code, but has yet to submit a bill to the council. Since Bill 23-2023 would amend the provisions of an older version of the Hawaii State Building Code that is no longer in effect, I would have to recommend that we postpone action, Madam Chair, on the bill with the intent that DPP will consider the amendments proposed in Bill 23 of 2023 when it submits it to the council, a bill amending the 2018 Hawaii State Building Code, which is anticipated to be within the next 2 or 3 months. We have here Ms. Puna of the department. And Stan, you can correct me if I am in error or if wrong, but we are deferring this measure, but please.
Thank you, Chair. So yes, we agree with everything that Chair has stated. DPP supports this bill and what it's intended to do. So we are working with stakeholders, industry, to come up with all the amendments to the building code and hope to bring it to council in the next few months. And we will include these amendments that are proposed here.
Thank you very much. Okay, Council.
Thank you.
Member Cordero.
Hi, Director. Will the passage, if we do continue to move this bill forward, will this prohibit or change any plans to update the county building code?
No, but I think it won't be effective because we're currently using the state code rather than this one that is being amended.
Okay, yeah. And I understand that the state as well as their transportation department has been in contact with DPP on how to secure their yards and airports, and how will that affect their ability to erect fences to do so? If we are going off of the April, I guess, state IBBC, whatever it is.
So I'm not sure about currently how we're handling that with DOT. I'd have to speak with staff. I don't know the details of what has been said, but we can work with DOT to figure out a solution in the interim.
Yeah. Okay, so currently, like I hate to use this as an example, but we just are continuing to move forward Bill 41, which was the item before this, while we are currently amending the LUO at the same time. Wouldn't that be similar to us utilizing, having the state code as our current bill, our current LUO, or I guess building code, in this, with this type of ordinance change?
It's different because we are currently using the state. We're under the state building code because we didn't meet the deadline, and so that's what we're operating under. So this, which is amending, I guess, the city's ordinance, is no longer necessarily effective or implemented. So, yeah.
Okay, so thank you. So if we had any bills related to amending any part of the building code, those would probably have to have been postponed too if they were in the committee.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we have someone from Department of Transportation. The Executive Assistant, Ms. Melissa Miranda Johnson.
Morning, Speaker.
Good morning. You can call me council
members.
member.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Melissa Miranda Johnson, Special Assistant for the Department of Transportation. We understand that this kind of falls in a gray area right now. As Councilmember Cordero had mentioned, we're trying to amend the city ordinance as we've had incidences where we've installed fences and DPP has asked us to remove it. So we're just trying to figure out a way to harden our security forces at the airports, harbors, and we look forward to continuing whatever discussion that will help get us there.
Oh, right ahead.
Thank you.
Councilmember Cordero, the sponsor of the measure.
Thank you. My question is in relation to the staff at DPP that you've been working with relating to the ability to erect the fences or security measures for the state yards and airport especially. I was wondering, have they brought up the possible, I guess, postponement of any city ordinance change? And how can that, sorry, I'll ask that question first. Go ahead.
All right, so this is actually the first that we're hearing about the possible postponement, so we're a little caught off guard. We've had discussions with DPP in the past and how to work with the ordinance in order to, harden our security forces. But again, we can continue discussions if it is Chair's pleasure to postpone and work with the different amendments instead.
Okay. All right. Okay. I guess, I mean, the implication is just having to find other means as opposed to working on passing the city ordinance since the city did not meet their deadline. Correct. I mean, there's nothing that the state DOT can do about it. So, okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further discussions for this particular measure? Chair Waters, from a legalistic perspective, yeah. Councilmember Cordero?
I have a question, I guess, for the city DPP relating to, or whoever meets these deadlines, whoever has to.
Who can ask the director?
Hi, Director. I was just wondering about, is this something that the city just misses often, or is this our first time missing the deadline to amend our county ordinance, city and county ordinance to state code?
So we try to keep up with the different cycles to update the code. I think we are pretty much under-resourced and staffed to be able to keep up with the deadlines, but it's also important that we get a lot of input from different stakeholders on the building code update. So I think that's what we've been working on. We get a lot of requests to look at this or that. So it's mostly just making sure that we hear from everyone in order to get all the amendments in. I think that's a big part of why it's taking so long. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and when would we anticipate us having the update before us?
I think in the next few months. I think we're almost there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, did you get your answer, Councilmember Cordero? Okay, any further discussion, members, at this point in time? So if not, Mr. Pang, can you help us out as Corp Counsel Deputy? Is there any possibility, because these wire fences are not exempt from our building code, can we come up with some language to just make it temporary? That you could do wire fencing at the airport on a one-year basis, temporary basis.
I think that, Dwayne Pang, Deputy Corporation Counsel, I think that we would have to look at the building code to see where there's a possibly a variance to certain restrictions.
So that's what
But that would be up to the DPP
Okay,
director.
so we go back to DPP.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm not sure whether a variance would applied in this situation, but an application could be at least be reviewed.
You know, the reason why I pose is you have the exemption for razor blade fences at all of our correctional centers. So that particular provision in the ordinance or the building code exempts these particular buildings.
Yes.
So I was just thinking if we could do a temporary one for airports, adding on that exemption.
I don't think you can't change
Okay.
you can't change the building code without
Okay.
going through the process.
Got it. Okay, thank you. Just trying, thinking about it. Okay. So, Madam Chair, if you don't mind, we're going to just defer until the next 2 months, and then we could come up with another measure.
Okay, so it has to be another measure?
No, no,
Or another measure for the whole building code?
Yeah, wait until they adopt. That's why I'm requesting that we just defer it at this point in time.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, do we have anyone with remote testimony?
Chair, there are none.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Is there anyone standing by remotely to testify? If so, please raise your hand feature in Zoom. Is there anyone else? If not, can we move on? We will now have in-person testimony. Madam Clerk, do we have any in-person testifiers?
Yes, Chair.
Oh, Melissa, you already went up already, so anything else that you'd like to say? So just tell the director we apologize that we didn't find out until the last minute. So members, at this point, we are in discussion. Okay. Is there anyone else in the council chamber who would like to testify? If not.
Yes, Chair.
Okay, Ms. Young, please.
Aloha, Angela Melody Young, testifying on behalf of CARES. The purpose of this, and I'm testifying in support. So the purpose of this ordinance is to amend the building code to further address offenses. And CARES appreciates this revision and wants to raise up that point also. Actually, I was thinking the same thing when an ordinance like this gets passed. How does the state get alerted about its duties and responsibilities? Because the operations are conducted at the state airport, how will the state be alerted that it is exempt from the code? Are you going to need a state resolution to set these parameters so that the security measures can be integrated at the city and state? Because while it is the city's purview to set the building codes, this is an example of something that has to be managed on state's property. There are examples of city ordinances that gets enacted, and then the city reinforces it as a Hawaii revised statute. So there is still the next season for that. And also, one last point, since we're amending Chapter 16 of the code, there can be consideration for this chapter as it relates to animals, because right now only zoos are exempt, and there are farms that have inhumane fencing, and that can be addressed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Young. Any questions for Ms. Young? Okay, is there anyone else in the council chamber who would like to testify in person? If not, members, we are in discussion. So at this point in time, members, as previously discussed, the chair would like to recommend that action on Bill 23 to 2023 be postponed to a date and time to be determined by the committee chair. Are there any discussions? Any objections or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Let's move on to agenda number 4, Bill 18. This bill addresses special assignment inspections. Members, we have posted to the agenda 2 proposed committee draft 1 versions of the bill. One proposed by Councilmember Tupola OCS 2023-0668/7/19/2023 at 1:02 p.m., and one that I had proposed, which is OCS 2023-0673/7/20/2023 at 10:56 a.m. For your information, summaries of the amendments are listed on the agenda. At this time, I would like to defer to Councilmember Tupola to explain her committee draft 1.
Thank you so much, Chair. The proposed CD1 makes the following amendments. Amends ROH 18-3.1C2 by adding a reference to obtaining required agency approvals in addition to obtaining all applicable discretionary permits. Amends ROH 18-3.1C3 by adding that storm water quality compliance includes approval by the Building Code NPDES Planning Examination section where applicable, and replacing discretionary permits with discretionary approvals. Amends ROH 18-3.1C5 by amending the requirement that the building permit application must not involve a single-family or two-family detached dwelling by providing the building permit application must not involve a single-family or two-family detached dwelling that exceeds a floor area ratio of 0.6. Amends ROH 18-3.1C8 by replacing drawings used with drawings submitted, adding that drawings must be in addition to drawings submitted with the building permit application, and adding that the applicant must ensure all sets of drawing are issued for construction and stamped by a licensed professional where required. Amends ROH 18-3.1C10 by deleting the provision that if a building permit is not issued within an 18-month period, the applicant may submit a new request for a special assignment inspection, and replacing it with the provision that if a building permit is not issued within 18 months after the building permit application creation date, the special assignment inspection will expire. Amends ROH 18-3.1C11 by adding or certificate of completion after certificate of occupancy. Adds at the end of ROH 18-3.1, failure of the owner or owner's designate to representative to obtain the building permit prior to completion of the project may result in fines of up to $50 per day until the building permit is approved for issuance. I thank the department for working with me on some of these edits, and thank yourself, Chair. Many of these are similar to the CD that you proposed. The only difference would be the 18-month window versus the 365. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. At this point, the chair would like to recommend or highlight his following amendments. First, I propose that we add a new revised ordinance of Honolulu, section 18-3.1:C:12, to provide that prior to the provision of electrical service by a public utility, a city electrical inspector must approve the electrical service equipment and the installation of the electrical system, and a building permit must be issued for the project. 2, amends ROH 18-3.1C5 by providing that the building permit application must not involve the construction, renovation, or expansion of a
I guess the differences between the two drafts, we don't have major issues with either. I think it's more of a policy call. The we didn't have enough time to really look at it closely, but it seems to be okay. We don't see major red flags with that. Other than that, I don't think we have any issues. And I would just remind the committee that unless we have the resources, the inspectors, et cetera, to carry this out, we won't be able to, but we are working on that separately.
Okay, thank you. Members, any questions for the director? Councilmember Tupola.
Aloha, Director. Yes, I agree with the electrical amendment that Councilmember Say introduced. I don't see any problem with that. I think it's fine. Again, dependent on resources, that's how this will move forward anyways. My question was in regards to the 18 versus 365. So in a testimony submitted by BIA as well as our prior conversations about just not being able to complete permits within a year, especially residential ones. What is your thoughts on the 365 versus the 18-month window to complete the permit application so as not to penalize people who may be stuck in the code review process and not able to get it at the 365?
So I think it's good to have, well, certainly a limit, and it works both ways, right? For DPP to get through the process, as well as the applicant to be responsive if we have comments, et cetera. A difference in 6 months, and the fact that we're going to try to greatly scale down the overall permitting time. I don't think we necessarily have a preference either way. Policy call on the committee's part.
Okay. Council. Yeah, that sounds good. I mean, I know that it's kind of fluctuating. Everyone kind of moved to e-plans, so maybe the backlog is more significant now. Maybe when new software comes in, it'll come down again. Right. My concern is just not penalizing people who are trying to do it the right way, but still can't get it through in those amount of days. So, Chair, that's my only comment. My concern is just making that window big enough so that people aren't penalized, because very few people have been able to get it within a year. Now, again, we're doing special assignment inspection, which is different. However, if they don't get it within 365, then the fees occur. And I do know the director is going to work with her department to not accrue those fees from day to day, but there is specific testimony saying that people were still not able to get their SAI done in 1 year's time. So to your discretion, Chair, thank you.
Okay, members, any questions for the director at this point in time? Okay. Director Apuna, sorry, the question I would pose to you, a lot of these measures which are options for the department to utilize as far as moving along the permits, you don't mind having an amendment, another friendly amendment asking that it sunset in 5 years, just to get a review? Or would members want to have it, every 3 years or 4 years, so that you folks are educated about this particular provision of the ordinance? That's all I'm trying to get at, that you folks do have some status reporting. Okay, Councilmember Tupolo.
I think the review would be nice. I don't know if 3 or 5 is soon enough, because that would mean that she would have to have the resources enough for us to track that a certain amount of SAIs have been done and that we have a review to give. I would suggest that maybe the review happen from 5 to 7 years and not 3, because I do think reporting back on how that particular provision is working for residential would be good. But I wouldn't want to sunset it, as you probably won't even get it up for the next couple years, is my thoughts, Director.
Yes, I think that we would have to, we need some lead time to get it all set up. So we don't want to be boxed in when we're actually getting it rolling and then have to come back for an amendment. But it is an option that we're, among the various options while we fix the permitting. So.
Okay, I just bring it up for discussion purposes, okay? Councilmember Tyler DeSantos Tam.
Chair, I was wondering if there's anyone from HECO here. I don't know if there is anyone online. Okay, when we get to the representative from HECO, I have a question.
Remote testimony. Okay, is there any other questions for the director? If not, no, now we can move on to remote testimony. Clerk, do we have any remote testifiers? Which we do. Okay, let's call upon Ms. Shannon Olivado.
Good morning, Chair Say, Vice Chair Dos Santos Tam, Shannon Olivado on behalf of Hawaiian Electric, testifying in support of Bill 18, CD1 proposed version by Chair Say. We just want to thank Chair for including the provision number 12, top of page 3, which was articulated by the Chair earlier with respect to the SAI process. It would require electrical service by a public utility not to be activated until a city electrical inspector approves electrical service and the installation of the electrical system building permit is issued. And our main concern here is public health and safety. As mentioned in our testimony, there has been incidents where we have discovered customers that may not be following all rules. So we want to ensure that we do, expedite these projects, residential particularly, but we do want to ensure that the safety of our residential homeowners are protected. And just wanted to mention that this is not something we have not worked with DPP. DPP has been a partner in addressing the commercial SAI process, and we have worked with them in that capacity as well. I would ask Vice Chair Dos Santos Tam to direct any questions to my colleague, Sean Oliveira, who's also on the phone. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Dos Santos Tam.
Great, thank you. I appreciate this. Just to understand the timeline of this process, and of course the SAI process is to help people get started with their project sooner. I understand that with this newly proposed amendment, the building permit must be issued for the project and then provision of electrical service can begin. How quickly does that occur? Let's suppose they're given a building permit today. How quickly can they turn on their electrical?
Mr. Oliveira, you're not on right now. Please, can you unmute yourself? There you go.
Yep. Thank you. So the timing, has a lot of factors. When you're just talking about getting the permit, it really depends on where they are with the process, they being the contractor in particular. And then we're just trying to state that we're not going to complete our process until we have that. So we could be just at the tail end, and we're just waiting for that final inspection, release, and confirmation that we have the permit. And so then it would be just a matter of issuing the job to our operations team and having them schedule it. Or if it's earlier in the process, then there could be a lot of steps that are still remaining. So it's really dependent on where they are in the process when that permit is secured.
I guess what I'm trying to get at is, we're trying to compress or reduce the overall time that it takes to take a project from its beginning to its end. And so if we're able to use this SAI process to speed up the DPP side, I want to make sure that there aren't delays. After DPP issues a building permit, after everything's all secured, you call HECO, and then, I don't want people to be waiting for HECO, So I want to get a sense of what that process and delay is like. So any information you could provide would be helpful.
Yeah, so I can say that we obviously have a process. We have a brochure actually that we have online that kind of details the typical process and timeframes, not only for ourselves, but for the contractors and the customer. So hopefully that's helpful. We are consistently looking for ways to improve our processes and trying to see how we might be able to reduce things. For our department in particular, I'm on the customer engineering side, where we have the planners who are assigned to those jobs and take care of the designs, et cetera. We're in process of bringing in we have 4 people that just completed training. We're bringing in another 4 people that we just made offers to. So from a resource standpoint, we're really trying to build up and make sure that these new people are well trained and can work through that process promptly. And then, like I mentioned, there's a lot of parts of the process that are dependent on the contractor or dependent on the city and county. So those, parts of the process we do not control. On the tail end, our operations team is also working on improving their process for scheduling their work and also making sure we have the appropriate resources for them to schedule the groups that they need.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Oliveira. Any further discussions with the Hawaii Electric testifiers? Mr. Olivar, thank you very much. Yeah, if there's any questions, if you could stand by. We also have next Mr. Eric Kusunoki. Oh, he's logged off. Okay. If not, are there anyone else as far as remote testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you very much. We will now proceed with the in-person testimony. Madam Clerk, do we have any in-person testifiers?
Yes, Chair.
Oh, Ms. Young. Okay, once more. Go right ahead, Ms. Young. Ms. Young, go right ahead.
Aloha, Chair. Vice Chair and the committee, Angela Melody Young, testifying in support of the special assignment inspections, especially the language where it says there's a sense of urgency to start construction in a timely manner, and examples that creates a sense of urgency are, but are not limited to, the impending lapse of funding, federal regulations, federal compliance regulations, financing obligations, or release obligations. So in light of the emergency proclamation that went into effect, I think last week, which creates a Building Beyond Barriers working group consisting of the state, city, and non-government agencies to review projects to expedite building processes and to expedite building any development that qualifies and will address the housing crisis. I think if Bill 18 and the emergency proclamation were to be examined further, it can provide a lot of support to the projects. Thank you. And the expediting of the processes.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Young. Is there anyone else in the council chambers who would like to testify on this particular measure? Please come forward at this point in time. If not, members, let's move on to, we are in discussion. Any discussion? If there is no discussion at this time, in support of special assignment inspections, the chair would like to recommend that Bill 18, 2023 be amended to the posted committee draft 1 that I propose as further amended as we discussed to amend revised ordinance 18-3.1 C5 to read as follows. Except for residential projects that have received material methods number approval from the building official, the building permit application must not, excuse me, I meant the, must not involve the construction, renovation, or expansion of a single-family or two-family detached dwelling that exceeds a floor area ratio of 0.60, and to make technical and non-substantive amendments. Councilmember Tupola, are you okay with the 360 days?
If you're amenable to it, I do think the 18 months is a better idea because of their backlog, and I don't know how long it'll take for us to get to a more reasonable amount of days that we can get out a permit. But at the end of the day, it's better than nothing. But I do think that the residential permits are the ones that are heavily backlogged in our system. So
correct. Okay. Why don't we just go with the 365 days for now and see how it is? Okay. Okay, any discussions, objections, or reservations? Hearing none, the bill has been amended to a CD1. The chair then recommends that Bill 18, 2023 CD1 be reported out for passage on second reading and scheduling of a public hearing. Any discussion, objections, or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Let's move on to agenda number 5, Bill 6. This bill helps alleviate the backlog of building permit applications and reviews by giving the building official the authority to allow other outside means of building permit application review for compliance with pertinent codes. Members, we have posted to the agenda a CD1 version of the bill that was approved at the committee's meeting on April 5th, 2023, as well as a proposed committee draft 1 version of the bill submitted by Councilmember Kiaina. For your information, summaries of the amendments are listed on the agenda. Members, we have also listed on the agenda an addendum to a CD1 of the bill that I propose, and for your information, a summary of the amendments is listed on the agenda addendum. At this point in time, I'll defer to Councilmember Kiaina to explain her committee draft 1.
Thank you, Chair Say. My amendment does two things. It removes the authorization for self-certification, and second, it modifies the sunset date for this measure to 4 years. And just as background, I shared with DPP that I do not support self-certification for all building permits and introduced my proposed CD1 to reflect this position with an understanding that the title is an issue. I am open to hearing proposals that would allow self-certification in only very narrow situations, which is not the drafts before us today. And lastly, with regard to the sunset date, I would recommend something in between what is in the current draft, which I understand is 7 years, and what HGEA is proposing in order to give DPP ample time to get things done into place, such as the administrative rules. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So at this point in time, members, the committee draft 1 version of the bill that I had proposed would add a new uncodified section 2 of the bill that sets forth the guiding policies and parameters of a temporary self-certification program that will remain in effect for a period of 5 years. Also, members, I'd like to offer a verbal amendment to the committee draft 1 that I propose to fill in the blank in the definition of eligible project to require that the project contain a maximum of 60 dwelling units. And that's it. Director Apuna. Oh.
Thank you, Chair. The proposal that includes more substantive guidelines for this program, we don't have any objections to, but we would add to start more focused and narrow, looking at the different eligible projects that currently list, I think, Bill 7 types of projects we're looking at, and we would like to add specific solar types of projects as well as tenant improvements. But we're working with industry currently to get more feedback about how to make this, to define these eligible projects. We also think that an important requirement is minimum insurance requirements, so that should probably be part of this draft.
Okay. Members, any questions for the director? Yep, Councilmember Wire, please.
Thank you, Chair. And briefly, Mahalo, Director. Approximately how long would the rulemaking process take if this were implemented?
So we're already working with industry, trying to get feedback so that we can, if and when the bill passes, we can quickly move to the rulemaking. Rulemaking in general, you need at least 30 days public notice for the hearing. And then if there's substantial suggestions or comments that we need to work through and add to the draft, we might have to have an additional hearing, so another 30-day posting. So it could be anywhere from about, I'd say, 3 months to 9 months. But it just depends if we have everything kind of lined up and everyone is helping to contribute to the program. I think it could go faster than 9 months.
Okay. And I'm assuming you have to wait until it's signed before you put a notice out? You can't do it in anticipation or anything?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Mahalo, Director.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Any further questions? Okay, Councilmember Chair Waters.
Thank you,
Followed
Chair.
by Tupola.
Good morning, Director. So just reading the bill, the building official shall review the application, plans, specifications, computations, and other data filed by the applicant, or cause the same to be reviewed by a qualified third-party reviewer or professional authorized to self-certify the plans. So we're allowing two things under the bill. One is allowing third-party reviews, and the second thing is self-certify. Is that correct?
That was the intent, but I think there's a title issue. The title is too narrow to maybe include the third-party review.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, recently DPP, I guess, pulled the, oh, are you allowing third-party reviewers currently?
Yes.
Under what authority?
Under rules that were established, I think, a couple decades ago to allow the third-party review program.
So DPP rules, but not ordinance, right?
Yes.
I'm just curious, was that the reason for the inclusion of third-party reviewers in the bill so that it's actually codified rather than just through rules?
Yes.
One of my concerns recently, you pulled the ability for a third-party reviewer to review plans in regard to apparently a monster home,
yes,
where the reviewer didn't follow the law, right? And the monster home was allowed to be built. How did you catch that?
So that was, I think it was based on a complaint that someone was concerned that it might be a monster home. So we looked at it, and then we realized it was a third-party reviewer that had approved it.
And basically, the third-party reviewer did not follow the law, right?
Correct.
Do you do periodic checks of the third-party reviewers?
So we were doing an audit of third-party review last calendar year. So we have that ability within the current rules to do audits, random or otherwise.
Okay. We had a huge discussion yesterday in the budget committee regarding monster homes. Well, maybe it wasn't budget, but one of our hearings yesterday. Anyway, for me, I don't have a problem with self-certification or third-party reviewers as long as they do it accurately.
Right.
You know, you have these large developments, building tract homes. It's all the same home. In my mind, that's not a problem for self-certification. But for, you know, these unscrupulous developers that are building these monster homes and others, what checks and balances do we have if we allow them to do self-certification? The monster home builders, for example.
So I think that one of the proposed amendments is to limit it to projects that are 0.60 or less. So it kind of doesn't allow the larger dwellings under self-certification. But I think we have to just be wary, and we have to continue to check, as we do internally, when anything is close to 0.6. So it might require further, you know, additional review from us, just to see if they're following the law. Yeah.
Okay. Can we limit self-certification to larger projects, you know, over a certain amount of units, as an example, rather than just house by house?
I think, yeah, if that's what the committee, the council desires, it's possible. Yeah.
Okay. I just thought I'd bring that up for discussion's sake, Councilmember Say. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councilmember Tupola, please.
So, Director, one of the comments you said was that you guys wanted to insert or add in further language regarding the amount of insurance required for the self-certification. So, as was mentioned by Chair Waters, there's parts of this that lies in your admin rules, and I've read all of it, right? And it requires that a third-party reviewer have X amount of insurance, take X amount of city tests, have X amount of qualifications. And so when we previously talked about this bill, you said that you wanted it inside the admin rules. So what are you suggesting be codified, and what are you suggesting not be codified? Because the insurance is just one of the requirements for third-party reviewers, but there's also a requirement to take a city test, to be proficient at the code reviews. So is that also things that we should be putting into law if it hasn't been already?
So I think that because we're kind of laying out the framework in the ordinance, that one of the basic elements should be minimum insurance, not necessarily stating that the level, but that insurance will be required. So I still believe that we wouldn't need to lay out everything in ordinance, but if that is the route that the council wants to take, that insurance is one thing that is just a basic requirement, but through the rulemaking process, we can work out the details and work with the stakeholders for what, you know, exactly the details of each of the components should be under the rules.
Understood. Yeah, I think I'm also in favor of trying to limit the scope of this. I know we talked about 7 years. I'm in favor of limiting the scope to sooner in the event that you guys can get more code reviewers. I made my own little chart of the differentiation between a third-party reviewer and a self-certifier, just so that I can understand it myself. And there's very few differences, so I think I'm just more interested in clearing this up and making it I think all of it should be in law so that it's very clear, because some of the third-party reviewer rules are very old. So I think it would just even protect us further if we had this written in law and not in some old admin book from whatever year that said these are the rules that we follow. And I guess the mention of the third-party reviewer in this also does concern me, because many of them have been asking for more clarification on what the city rule processes will be moving forward. So just discussion, Director. I know you know all of this is of top of mind for me.
Right, and then as far as the third-party rules, we are looking at them again, and we want to go back and amend those to make them clearer and include additional standards. So we're not going to just use the current rules. We want to make them better, and we will go forward with the self-certification rules too.
Understood. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Kiaina.
Thank you. Director, can you elaborate a little bit on the projects again? Because the way it's crafted in the CD1, it's quite broad. And you said solar projects, you said Bill 7 projects. Is that what you said?
Yes, so I think in Councilmember Say or Chair Say's proposed draft, they define eligible projects, and it seems to be, I think, like Bill 7 projects. And so just listening to industry, et cetera, and thinking about what would be practical for DPP to start off with, it would be smaller, less risk projects. We think some of the solar projects, not all, but specific types, more simple, less complex, as well as tenant improvements, you know, that we think those would be a good fit. And we could start with those 3 types of projects. And maybe if the project works well, we could add to that if we think that other projects would be important for the program.
You know, for me, I have to tell you, I'm hearing what you're saying, but I don't see it in the bill. And so I would be more comforted if you are more specific. I already told you that I would like it to be narrowly tailored, and I don't believe that as crafted it does that. So, but thank you for explaining it. So, Chair, I guess I will be. I would recommend that you either hold the bill, or I will be voting no against this measure when we go to deliberations.
Okay, thank you very much. Any further discussion? Members? No? Yeah. Please.
Yeah, no, thank you, Chair. And thank you, Director. I appreciate all your work. No questions for you, but yeah, thank you for all your work.
May I call other testifiers up?
Of course. Yeah.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, are there any remote testimony at this point in time?
Chair, there are none.
Okay. Is there anyone else standing by remotely to testify?
Chair, there are none.
Okay. Now we'll proceed with in-person testimony. Madam Clerk, do we have any in-person testifiers?
Yes, Chair.
Okay. Ted Kafalis? Ted, please.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, it's not here, but members of the committee, Ted Kafalis with Grassroots Institute. You know, we do appreciate the hard work that DPP has been putting in to address some of the delays that we're all very well aware of, but we're still dealing with a close to 200-day delay when it comes to permitting. These permitting delays, as you all well know, cause headaches and higher costs for residential homeowners just trying to renovate their kitchens, businesses trying to take down a wall, or home builders trying to construct new homes in our communities. Bill 6 would allow for building applications to be reviewed by these qualified third-party reviewers or self-certifiers, and it essentially gives people an alternative way to get out of the permitting process without necessarily having to go through DPP. These are things that will still be permitted, still have to follow the rules, but we just are taking people out of line, so trying to limit that 200-day delay. As Director Apuna already mentioned, this is something for when it comes to third-party reviewers that Honolulu is already utilizing. And I did just want to mention, for any concerns about safety precautions, the bill does have opportunity to penalize these people. There are other cities that use this, self-certification, third-party reviews. New York uses it, Chicago uses it, Phoenix uses it. So we don't necessarily have to reinvent the wheel, but we can look to those cities to see what they do. So mahalo.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kafalas. Okay, next we have Kaunui Sabas. Sabas? Please proceed.
Good morning, Chair, members of the committee. Kaunui Sabas here with HGEA. We stand on our written testimony, which provides comments. I do just want to highlight our testimony that we did submit. We are still requesting for a 2-year sunset date on this bill. Obviously, one of the reasons why there is a permitting backlog is due to high-level vacancies. We believe 2 years is a reasonable amount of time for DPP to invest in its workforce, provide training, increase pay to make these jobs more attractable. Once DPP is able to increase their workforce, we are very confident that obviously the permit backlog will fall, and current DPP staff will be able to meet the demand of permit applications. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Sabas. Any questions for Mrs. Sabas? If there is no further questions, Madam Clerk, is there anyone else in the council chamber who would like to testify? Please
Yes,
come
Chair.
forward. Okay, Ms. Young, once more.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, and the City Council council members. Angela Melody Young testifying on behalf of CARES in support. So a lot of cities are experiencing slow government processes as it relates to the building process. It's not just a Honolulu concern. And the purpose of this ordinance is to help alleviate the backlog of building permit applications and reviews. A lot of people, staff, legislators, government agencies, and developers experience the frustration of the process as is. So self-certification can be very helpful to expedite the building process as long as it does not compromise on health, culture, safety, and environment. This policy can help with streamlining procedures to bypass regulatory burdens, rules, and barriers of existing laws. What is an example of a policy that also achieves this effect of expediting and streamlining building processes? I've talked about this before. An example policy is the emergency proclamation that built the kahales at the Department of Health across from the Capitol. And also there are ways to create a policy to set parameters and to write in mechanisms to guard against the things that y'all have just talked about, right? And also that can be examined in the emergency proclamation Chapter 6, where they wrote in mechanisms for the developers. And yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Young. Are there anyone else here to testify in person? If there is no other testifiers in person, at this time, members, we are in discussion. Before you, you have the draft of Councilmember Kiana and the draft of the chair himself. And I'll be open to any discussion that you folks may have at this point in time. Yeah, okay. At this point, this is the recommendation.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, just for a quick discussion, Chair. Just want to say mahalo for the work that you've done, that Vice Chair's done. I would just indicate that I'll be supporting whatever Chair's recommendation is. Appreciate the amendments. Would support the 2-year timeline proposed by HGA. I do think 3 years would also be reasonable. It would give DPP the 9 months they need to do admin roles. And
But
then
that's where your point is very much well taken. I think for the, would we call ourselves the sophomore class or the junior class? No, primarily what's happening is that when we came in, there was a measure that was adopted, and that was Bill 7, prior to our being elected to the council. And as of today, Bill 7, I think the director made some presentations earlier that the projects have not taken off of what they had thought it would. So instead of having it right now perpetuity, I just thought that for reference for the members, I would like to see it continue on just for 5 years. If it's going to take them maybe 2 to 3 months, but I don't believe they can get it done in 2 to 3 months, the rules, that will give us an opportunity to find out where are we in 5 years. But if the members are open to 4 years, I'll be open to 4 years also. I just want these deadlines and sunsets primarily because you can get a chance to review what has happened in those years. So like for Bill 7, after the presentation that was made, Director Apuna, how many applicants have we applied for Bill 7 that was adopted in 2019? That was before our time.
I think there's been 8 that have been approved.
8?
Yes.
Yes, you can see how difficult it is in the application side or the enforcement. So that's why I started off with 5 years, knowing that it's something for all of us to take a look at.
yeah, and just to finish my comment for discussion, totally understand that, and actually really appreciate Chair's insight and hard work on the measure. So just wanted to share those thoughts. But
okay, I think Councilmember Kiana may be, not in support of it, but I'll ask her, her thoughts at this point in time also.
Well, I do have a question again, Council Chair Say.
Yes.
Your proposed CD1 has up to 75 feet.
Yes.
Which is beyond the 60 feet under Bill 7 projects. Are you aware of that?
Yes.
So I feel that your projects are larger projects.
I believe it's the standard policy for 75 feet with the building code. Okay, that's number
Then,
one. Number two, the blank would be 60 units.
Yeah. Yeah, again, I understand what we're trying to achieve here, but I am still discomforted with the lack of specificity. So I still remain concerned and will be voting no.
And your point is well taken. And if this measure is adopted, it will probably be promulgated through the rules and regs, the specifics. Okay, Director Apuna, that's the goal. So the chair would like to recommend that Bill 6, 2023 be amended to the committee draft 1 that I proposed and was listed on the agenda addendum of OCS 2023-0683/7/21/2023 at 1:14 p.m. as further amended as we discussed to fill in the blank in the definition of eligible project to require that the project contain a maximum of 60 dwelling units and to make the technical and non-substantive amendments. Any discussion?
Chair, question. Are you leaving it at the 7 or are you changing it to the 4? What did you do for the sunset? Leave it at the 7?
Oh, probably. So it's okay, yeah, your point is well taken. This particular provisions now, it will be uncodified, which I stated earlier, so it's temporary. Oh, 5 years.
5?
But if you want to go at 4, somebody has to make the recommendation, okay, for the discussion.
I mean, so like I said, I would prefer 3, but I'll put forward and ask for 4 if Chair would entertain it. I don't know.
Radiant, 4.
Second.
7.
Second.
Second,
motion.
okay. So, okay, it's moved in second that we'll amend it to have it at 4 years rather than 5 years. And getting back to Councilmember Tupola's question, it is uncodified, meaning it's not part of the statute, it's temporary. Okay? So that will make it, and to be consistent, we'll have to have it at 4 years also. Okay. Okay, one more time to repeat my statement. We're amending it from 5 to 4, which was adopted by, moved and second by both Chair, Councilmember Wire and Councilmember Cordero, which is fine with the Chair. We also have to realize that this particular measure will not be codified in the ROH. So you folks know that it's going to be temporary contingency on the promulgation of the rules. And at that point in time, when you have the promulgation of the rules, you'll have the much more specifics as far as what the bill would be about. Yes.
Okay. May I ask a question clarifying? So the sunset date, because I know it goes into effect, would the sunset date begin at signing, or would it be once the rules are promulgated?
Once it's signed.
Okay.
That's the way it is. Okay. So having, Councilmember Tupola, did I answer your question? Okay. So any discussion, objections, or reservations? Hearing none, the bill has been amended to the CD1 with the verbal agreement among the council members in regards to, what's that? Oh, okay. Okay. I'm sorry, once more. The parliamentary procedure, before we can move on for the vote, I have to make a request to Councilmember Kiaina. Are you objecting now to that committee draft that was proposed?
Yes.
Okay, you are objecting to it?
Yes, I am.
4 years, okay. So roll call will have to be taken at this point in time. Okay. Let's start off with Chair Say is an aye. Dos Santos is excused. Cordero?
Aye.
Okay. Kiaina?
No.
Okay. And Wire?
Aye.
Okay. Do we have enough votes? Okay. The votes are 3, 1, and 1. 3 ayes, 1 noes, 1 absent. At this point in time now, we'll be discussing that the discussion is as amended, yeah. The bill has been amended to the CD1 proposed, and now the chair recommends that Bill 6, 2023, CD1 be reported out for passage on second reading and scheduling of a public hearing. Any discussion? Any objections or
yes.
Councilmember Kiaina, yes, objections. Okay, so roll call will be done once more. Chair Say is an aye. Dos Santos Tam, excused. Cordero?
Aye.
Aye. Kiaina?
No.
Oh, okay, and Wire?
Aye.
Got it, thank you. So it's 3 ayes, 1 noes, and 1 abstention. Absent. Okay, so hearing none and hearing any discussion at this point, there is no discussion or objections. We had the objections or reservation. So ordered as far as the passage of the measure. Moving on to agenda number 6. This resolution 23-140. This resolution grants a special management area use permit to concept to completion on behalf of the Souza Family Trust to allow for repairs and an addition to existing single-family detached dwelling and related site improvements on approximately 27,000 square foot shoreline lot, Zone R10 Residential District and P1 Preservation District located at 1508 Mokulua Drive in Lanikai and identified as tax map key 4-3-003:074. Members, we have listed on the agenda addendum a proposed committee draft 1 version of the resolution. For your information, a summary of the amendment is listed in the agenda addendum. I would also like to make verbal amendment to the proposed committee draft 1 to delete condition H, regarding the repair and maintenance of a retaining wall. At this point in time, joining us in the council chamber is Carl Mensch from Concept to Completion, the applicant's agent who will be providing a brief overview of the project. Mr. Mensch, please.
Hi, good morning. My name is Carl Mensch, the owner of Concept to Completion, and I'm the agent for this project. Let's see, I have an SMA application here that we submitted for your reference if you'd like me to pass that out, or if we could just go off of the city and county's recommendation, whatever you'd like. I might have some additional information in this packet that you may use. I'm good. Okay. So I'm the owner-operator of Concept to Completion. I've been in business for 23 years, work out of Kailua. I'm born and raised in Kailua. I've done a lot of projects in this neighborhood, approximately 12, so I'm very familiar with the area. This is my first SMA project, as the SMA process for single-family residents has just been included within the last few years. I'm working for the Souza family, Walter and Karen, as their agent for this SMA and the project itself. We're seeking approval of this SMA for proposed repairs in addition to an existing single-family dwelling located at 1508 Mokulua Drive in Lanikai. The proposed action includes repairing the structural deficiencies in the existing dwelling and adding 1 bedroom, 2 bathrooms, a den, and some additional living space. The existing second floor master bedroom is partially within the shoreline setback. We plan to do repairs to the exterior siding, roofing within its existing footprint and not developing it any further. The existing driveway will be replaced by a smaller driveway to provide more landscape space and decrease the impervious surface areas. The existing pool will be rebuilt in its existing location. No work is planned for the property walls or the seawall. We are not seeking any variances or any approvals outside of existing zoning and building codes. I could open it up to any questions or continue to describe the project.
Would you like to continue on with the project? Just a few more highlights if you have at this point.
Sure. We've been working on this project since 2019 and been in limbo on this SMA since 2020. We have permits to build a new garage and connect to the existing house. So we do have those permits and we have done that work, and we're waiting on a permit through this SMA approval process to do the work I described earlier. The house will be a single-family dwelling for the Souza family. They have adult children that live in the neighborhood, so it's intended for that to be a family gathering place for them. The project will be occupied by the owners and used until they're elderly now, and unfortunately Walter's come down with cancer, so he may be passing before the project's done, but it'd be used as a family home while they have it.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Mensch. Any questions for the applicant? Okay, that was it for your presentation. Thank you very much. Just stick around if there's other questions. So at this point in time, we'll move on to the administration. Ms. Apuna, Director Apuna.
Aloha, Chair. We have no objections to this SMA.
Okay. Any questions for the director? No objections? If not, we will now proceed on.
Yes. I'm sorry.
Okay,
Chair.
go ahead. Councilmember Klein.
Thank you both for the agent as well as the director. But director, because I have received a few concerns about the SMA from neighbors, I just want to get on the record some clarifications because I think there's been a lot of misunderstanding with regard to the scope of the proposed development. So first off, with regard to the footprint, will the renovations to the property expand the footprint of the existing dwelling, and if so, by how much?
Yes, there's an expansion of building area where an existing paved courtyard exists between two wings of the existing dwelling. This area will be enclosed and covered and amounts to about 1,700 square feet of building area. There are no outward expansions of the building footprint otherwise.
Okay, that gets me to my second question with regard to floor area. Will the renovation on the property expand the square feet of floor area of the existing dwelling, and if so, how much?
Yes, about 4,286 square feet of new floor area is proposed.
And with regard to the number of structures, how many structures would be on the property after this construction is complete? And am I understanding correctly that this property previously had 2 structures on it?
Yes, so when it's complete, it'll be one structure. The former guest quarters, what was connected to the main dwelling, or will be connected to the main dwelling.
Okay, and can I get clarification on the previous SMA? The applicants obtained a building permit and SMA minor for previous work on the project. Can you clarify what work is being done that was already approved?
So they obtained a minor SMA permit in 2021 for the previous work on the guest quarters. That permit covered some repair work in addition to the guest quarters and the connection and conversion of the guest quarters structure to the main dwelling.
Okay, so will they need another building permit after they obtain a new SMA?
Yes.
Okay, and you're working on that?
Yes.
So with regard to the shoreline setback area, I believe the agent explained this, but I just want it on the record. Will any new development occur in the shoreline setback area?
No, only repairs are proposed within the shoreline setback area as allowed by ROH Chapter 26.
Lastly, relating to public access, are there any concerns related to the existing retaining wall on the property, which is nearby a public beach access? And if so, what is DPP recommending to mitigate these concerns with the community?
So the owner of the adjacent beach access, the Lani Kai Association, expressed concerns over the existing wall that encroaches into the access. We feel that this is a private matter, but that the assignment of responsibility for repair or removal may serve a public purpose in the event that it were to impact access.
Okay, I'm sorry. So what are you recommending?
I think we're recommending that there should be some placement of responsibility on one or both of the parties to make sure that access is continued.
So, Councilmember Kiana, for my amendment that was proposed and stated earlier, I would like to offer a verbal amendment to the proposed committee draft 1 to delete condition H regarding the repair and maintenance of a retaining wall and let the association and the family work out their differences.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you, Chair.
You're welcome. Thank you. Any further discussion for Director Apuna? Okay, let's proceed on to remote testimony.
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here in the council chambers who would like to, is there anyone else standing by remotely?
Chair, there are none.
Okay, great. In-person testimony. We will now proceed with the in-person testimony. Clerk, do we have any in-person testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
Okay, is there anyone else in the council chamber who would like to testify? Please come forward to the testifier's podium. Mr. Manago, please.
James K. Monaco Sr., concerned parent, grandparent, great-grandparent. You know, somebody made a good testimony yesterday when he brought up a concern. He said once you give one person an inch, they'll take a mile. Yeah, so I believe that. So once you give one owner this opportunity, all the owners can take an opportunity. As you know, I've been here advocating for the shoreline, and it's only because of how what's happening now. In my time, I didn't have to worry about going to the shoreline because there was a law that was present that I didn't have to worry about. Today, there's a law that I need to worry about because you folks allow them to carry a gun, and now they believe that the shoreline belongs to them. They believe it so much that they get the gun that they can shoot me when they tell me get off their property. So I'm not sure if you believe, you know this, but they actually believe that the shoreline belongs to them now. Yeah, they actually believe that. You look at their constitution will tell you that. So if you allow them to believe that the shoreline belongs to them,
Mr. Monago, I apologize.
Generation,
I apologize.
well, I'm
Can you
sorry,
summarize?
Mr. Chair.
Yeah. Yes,
But
time is
I'm talking about my life and our livelihood. Because nobody explaining to these people that in Hawaii, we have different laws than the continent. And until you do that, I have to advocate for this. And until you explain to them. So
thank you.
That's my concern, and I hope you folks address that.
Your point is very much well taken.
Thank you.
And that's where I duly and truly support what you're saying, because we do have a state constitutional opinion that.
Yes, we do, sir. But I don't hear the city, explaining it to all these people that.
Got it.
And then I don't even hear it being mentioned in the city.
Okay, got it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, is there anyone else in the chamber who would like to testify? Okay, Ms. Young, I'll give you 60 seconds, starting now.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Angela Melody Young, testifying on behalf of CARES. I wish to comment. So the Office of Planning administers the Hawaii Revised Statutes, Chapter 205A, the Coastal Zone Management Law, and it sets the parameters for the SMA permitting system. The SMA permit was created in 1975, and the legislature, in enacting Part 2 of the chapter, discovered that special parameters on developments within an area along the shoreline are necessary to avoid permanent losses of valuable resources and the foreclosure of management options, and to ensure that adequate access by dedication or other means to public owned or used beaches, recreation areas, and natural resources is provided. So I wish to just comment, advocating for natural resources, that this discussion can focus a little bit about the natural resources. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else? If not, members, we are in discussion. Any discussion? Okay, Councilmember Kiaina.
Chair Say, as a follow-up to our previous discussion with regard to the wall and your proposed deletion, can I call the director up again from DPP and ask her what are her thoughts on your amendment? Because I thought it was DPP that had proposed a condition that the Lanikai Community Association work out an agreement about maintenance repair of the wall.
Okay, Director Apuna, would you like to come on up?
Thank you, Councilmember Kiaina. From what we understand, the Lanikai Association is already working on this, and because it's a private matter, we believe that it will be dealt with outside of the resolution.
Oh, okay, so you are, you're okay with Council Chair Say's proposed deletion of the condition?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure you're working closely with the property owner and the agent. I just wanted to make sure that I understood this. Thank you. It's an important issue for the community. I'm just trying to cover my bases. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would Councilmember Kiana, would you want Mr. Mensch to respond to your question also? The applicant? No, yes.
No, I think I'm good because I think he has been working closely
Yes.
with the concerns raised in concert with DPP, so I'm okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so at this point, the chair would like to recommend that Resolution 23-140 be amended to the committee draft 1 listed on the agenda addendum, as further amended as we discussed to delete condition H. Okay? And to make technical and non-substantive amendments. Any discussion, any objections or reservations? Hearing none, the resolution has been amended to a committee draft 1. The chair then recommends that Resolution 23-140, Committee Draft 1, be reported out for adoption. Any discussion, any objections or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Thank you very much. Moving on to agenda number 7, Resolution 23-160. This resolution authorizes pursuant to the Hawaii Revised Statute, Section 201H-38, exemptions from certain city application fees, infrastructure or public work fees, and charges for the development of the Hale Mo'ili'ili affordable rental project for Native Hawaiians on approximately 1.89 acres of land zone P2, General Preservation District, located at 1820 Eisenberg Street in 820 Eisenberg Street in Mo'ili'ili, and identified as tax map keys 2-7-008:018 and 020. Members, please note that the proposed committee draft 1 listed on the agenda addendum OCS 2023, that's the year -0686/7/21-2023 at 2:15 p.m. only corrects an error in the numbering on the summary sheet for the proposed committee draft 1 posted on the original agenda. Other than the correction to the summary sheet, the proposed committee draft 1 listed on the agenda addendum is identical to the proposed committee draft 1 posted on the original agenda. For your information, a summary of the amendments is listed on the agenda addendum. Members, this is for history now. Also note that Resolution 20-262, Floor Draft 1, establishes a council policy relating to financial incentives for 201H projects and provides, in pertinent part, that project wastewater system facility charges may be waived for that portion of the charges attributable to affordable units offered for rent to households earning 80% or below of the AMI, and may be deferred until the issuance of a certificate of occupancy for that portion of the charges attributed units above the threshold. Joining us in the council chamber is Mr. Kaloa Robinson, the applicant's agent, who will be providing a brief description and presentation. And for your information, for the general public at large, the presentation is available online as miscellaneous communication 413-2023. So at this time, we have Mr. Robinson or Mr. Carr to make the presentation.
Thank you very much, Chair. Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Chair Waters, Director Takeuchi Apuna, Director Matsubara. Thank you to the committee for this opportunity to present the project and request exceptions pursuant to 201H for what is a very important project in Stanford Car Development's portfolio. My name is Kaloa Robinson. I am the project manager for the 820 Eisenberg redevelopment on behalf of the applicant, Holly Mo'ili'ili LP. Up for discussion is the project located at 820 Eisenberg, also known as the Old Bolodrome. This piece of property is approximately 2 acres that has been in the DHHL's portfolio since the mid-90s. In 2019, they put it out to competitive RFP, and Stanford Car Development was selected as the successful offerer. We propose to build a 278-unit affordable rental project exclusively for members of the Native Hawaiian community. It's comprised of 4 major structures: a 23-story high-rise highlighted in purple, a 4.5-story parking structure highlighted in green in the center of the property, aligning the parking structure and obfuscating the monolithic nature of that parking structure are 7 2-story low-rise townhouses that create a bridge and a humanistic scale between the open space park and our property. And in blue along Eisenberg Street, activating our ground floor and creating a sense of arrival is a 4,700 square foot retail component. In total, the project will house 278 families. Most of the units that we've chosen to develop are 2 bedrooms. In the tower, we will have mostly 2 bedrooms, 203 total, with 1 studio, 1 1-bedroom, and 1 3-bedroom per floor. And in addition to the 7 2-story townhouses aligning the parking structure, which are 3-bedroom, 2-bath units, we'll have a total of 278. We will also be building enough parking such that each unit has at least 1 stall. In total, in the parking structure, there will be 282 stalls, and then on the surface, another 24 for a total of 306. We designed this project to span a larger range of affordability, such that we're not just targeting those in the low-income housing tax credit category. For your information, are households earning 60% of the area median income and below. 70% of this project will be made available to households earning 60% of the AMI and below, but we're leveraging those federal subsidies, those tax credits, to provide equity to serve, to be able to bring the project to financeable feasibility such that we can service the missing middle, the gap, as it were. These are households that earn 80% to 100% of the area median income. These are folks that, for whom there is no existing federal subsidized rental financing program. However, they don't necessarily earn enough to compete in the marketplace. For those folks, 30% of the project will be made available to households earning 80 to 100. Very briefly, what that translates to, at least at the very low level, is a single person in the 30% AMI level earning $27,000 a year, paying about $400 a month to rent a studio. I have a few brief aerial photos. This is a rendering of what the project will look like at completion, facing Eva. On your left-hand side is the existing scenic towers. In the background is the high-rise itself. In the center of the project, the parking structure lined with photovoltaic panels on the roof. To the right, adjacent to Stadium Park, the 7 townhouses, and activating the ground floor, the retail component. Members of the committee, it appears that that is the only rendering I'm able to show you. My apologies, there were more pictures included in the presentation. I think they've been omitted for whatever reason. We've, over the last 3 years since we've been awarded the project, we've conducted a wide range of community outreach that spans the neighborhood board, the previous councilwoman representing the area, the DHHL, the Hawaiian Homes Commission, and beneficiaries thereof. We also secured a letter of support from the mayor and have been most recently in discussions with our immediate neighbors as to how we can alleviate the inconvenience from construction, most notably scenic towers. With respect to the agenda item, what's before the committee today is a resolution providing exemptions basically entirely from fee exemptions pursuant to 201H for this project. There's nothing in there with respect to land use the land use ordinance because of DHHL's ability to, or their exemption from the land use ordinance. What has made it to CD1 we're grateful for, and we of course agree with. There were a few items omitted from DPP's resolution to CD1, and the main one I want to talk about concerns the GET exemption. So 201H is a state statute that the legislature enacted for the purpose of creating affordable housing. Affordable housing is a critical component of the wellness of our people, and without it, there's basically no hope of ever transcending the ladder, as it were. Within 201H, it provides that the only body that can approve exemptions, whether from statutes, ordinances, rules, policies, etc., is the legislative body of the county in which it is situated. This is to say that statutes can be exempted through 201H by the by the local jurisdiction, the local legislative body, the city council. With respect to exemption 10, which was omitted from DPP's resolution and is not on CD1, we would respectfully request the council and or the committee's reconsideration. To be clear, it is not an exemption. It is just affirming that the project is in fact exempt from general excise tax pursuant to 201H. Additionally, I believe the chair mentioned resolution 20-262. I will let this committee discuss that for themselves. That said, there are a number of conditions, and the applicant has only one requested change for consideration, which is for condition C to be changed from C to condition B5, and for that language to replicate Director Takeuchi Apuna's recommendation in their transmittal to the council. This condition relates to bike storage, and the purpose of our requested change is twofold. One, it clarifies the intent of bike parking scope, which was largely to service visitors to the commercial area and to the residences. And two, it clarifies the department within DPP that is supposed to review this, which is the traffic review branch. Committee, with that, I will yield to any questions you may have. And again, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Mr. Robinson. Excellent presentation. Members, are any questions for the applicant? Yes, please. Councilmember Wire.
Thank you, Chair. Quickly, mahalo for the presentation. I just wanted to make sure I understood, because I know you were talking about the gap group. So in looking at the breakdown of 30, 60, 80, 100% units, when we're looking at 56, 80% AMI units, that's going to be 80% AMI and below. Is that correct understanding, or?
I'm not sure I follow. Are you asking if the 80% AMI units will be available to anybody that earns under 80% AMI?
Yeah.
Including, for example, people that earn at 30% AMI?
Well, more specifically, making sure that's not in the gap group. Because typically gap would be 80, above 80 to 100, right? So I just wanted to make sure that I was reading it correctly, because my assumption would be like, okay, 80% AMI, it's going to be available to anyone 80% AMI and below.
Yes, that's exactly the case. When we say the word gap, we mean basically anything that's above qualified to rent in a low-income housing tax credit property, which is 60% and below, and still below whatever market rents are.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah, no, this is a great project, given 90% of it would be LMI or low and moderate income households. So appreciate that. Mahalo.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, any questions? Chair Waters, please.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. Just a couple questions. Is the community okay with putting 2 towers right in Mo'iliili next to Stadium Park, based on your community outreach?
Just to clarify, our project has 1 tower.
Okay.
With respect to the community's support, they did issue a resolution. Neighborhood Board 8 issued a resolution affirming general support. The only caveat being that they did ask for additional support in getting the adjacent park kind of more up to, how do I say this, more usable and less of a presence that inspires undesirable activity.
So they want you to spruce up the park?
They didn't ask us to spruce up the park. They did direct the request to Parks and Rec, but in our discussions with the neighborhood board, we used Halekuila Place as an example. Halekuila Place is a similar project. It's an entirely low-income housing tax credit project. It is located on the corner of Keawe Street and Halekuila Street. This project is adjacent to Mother Waldron Park. Mother Waldron Park, obviously is a public park. It's not something that we own, but as a component of trying to be a good landlord and a good neighbor, that development took it upon itself to implement improvements to the park, such as, I think it was a new sprinkler line, a new basketball court, a bunch of very useful things. And the tenants participate, at least up until right before COVID, once a month public park cleanup. So what we told them was, we will do our best to be good neighbors, but at the end of the day, this is the city's park, it's not ours.
One of the renderings had a big fence between the property and the park. Is there going to be a gate going into the park so that the residents can utilize the park more readily?
Yes, sir. Unfortunately, I don't have a rendering that shows directly down our Woonerf, which separates the tower and the parking structure, but is a pedestrian walkway and there's a gate. We got it? The answer to your question is yes, there's a gate, and it is located at the end of our pedestrian walkway.
Terrific. Is this the first time DHHL is constructing a high-rise building for beneficiaries?
To my knowledge, it is the first high-rise building that DHHL is doing. It is, however, not the first rental project. They have done this before.
That was my next question. Why rental versus fee simple?
I certainly don't want to presume to speak for the department, and I don't, because I don't work for the department. But I will say, as a descendant of Native Hawaiians myself, and my own grandmother's on this list, and as a real estate development professional, every different product of housing is critical to the provision of housing, which is to say that it may not be possible to satisfy all housing needs of small and Native Hawaiians with homestead leases on its own, and projects like this, while maybe not exactly what was anticipated 100 years ago, are critical to the well-being of people like my grandmother.
If a beneficiary is on the list for a fee simple lot, Are they going to be allowed to rent in this building while waiting for their award for a fee simple lot? Or are they automatically taken off the list? Just curious.
I really appreciate that question. It's something that's come up a lot. They will not lose their place in line for a homestead lease. The term that we've kind of used when talking to the commission and talking to beneficiaries is to think of this as something like a waiting room, or as something that provides housing while the homestead leases are being developed.
That's terrific. Then if you could give us an idea of what the rents are going to cost for a studio, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, and 3 bedroom, if you have that information.
I do. Sure. I'm told that this was included in your packet. Up on the display is a slide. What's highlighted are the income categories that would be applicable to this project. So up top you have the income limits. At the 30% AMI level, they start at a single person earning $27,000 a year to a 4 or 5 person household earning $130,000 to $140,000 a year. That translates to max rents of, and these are inclusive of the city's utility allowances. So this is a little bit different than what you'll see on the HHFDC website, because we have to back out the utility allowances for whatever is charged to the tenant separately. Nonetheless, they start at $410 for a studio and go up to $2,758 for something like those 3-bedroom, 2-bath townhouses.
Okay. Okay, that's all the questions I have. Thank you, Chair. Great project, and looking forward to getting built.
Councilmember Cordero, followed by Wire. No? Okay.
Thank you. Hi, Mr. Robinson. This is not related to the exemptions request, but mainly the project and the 4-story parking structure. Is the parking structure also built within the commercial space, so it's not just a parking structure?
Technically, they're 2 separate structures. There's what's called a firewall between them, or a fire separation. However, the retail component is directly adjacent to the parking structure.
Okay. Do you see that maybe utilizing the parking structure to be maybe on top or on top of retail space to save on the footprint of a development on property would help to possibly allow for more space for more units?
The answer to your question is yes. I mean, there are obviously ways to maximize density more. We did not take the approach that the best project was necessarily the one that could squeeze the most amount of units onto this piece of property. And it certainly is possible to do that. What we proposed to DHHL was something that was consistent with BMX3 zoning, which was their directive, and there's a certain floor area maximum in BMX3 that we're trying to respect. The other thing is that there is such thing as a sweet spot in density for every area, and we think that while it's physically possible to put more units on this structure or on this piece of property, that what we're proposing is basically what's Pono. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you. And also, it would increase the amount of vehicular traffic on Eisenberg with more parking space available at the property. And so what are the, access changes that you're making on the property itself so that, traffic doesn't either back up into Eisenberg and whatnot?
I'll keep it at a high level. Because we did conduct an extensive traffic impact analysis report, and we've been in discussions on this very matter with both DTS and Traffic Review Branch of DPP. So as part of their conditions, they list out several mechanisms for mitigating traffic both during construction and after we're complete. I will say that the traffic impact analysis report that we submitted and was accepted by Traffic Review Bench concluded that the impact of the project on the traffic on Eisenberg would basically be close to unnoticeable, and that the levels of service would be unchanged, with the exception of, and this is not a change, there's just an existing poor level of service at the intersection of Kapiolani and Eisenberg.
Okay, thank you. And I do note that you've mentioned that it's one parking per unit, right?
At a minimum, yes.
At minimum. Oh, okay. So is there like a required amount within the zoning that the BMX3, and are you providing more than the required amount?
I believe there is a parking ratio requirement within BMX3, although I have to admit I don't have it off the top of my head. We size the parking in our project to balance two things. One is that there is a move away from large quantities of structured parking at residential projects because cars present an undue burden on land. Like, what do you want more of, right? Roads or houses, et cetera, right? But at the same time, there isn't a widely available public transportation system like the rail. I mean, of course, there's the bus and there's bicycling, et cetera, but we felt very strongly that by not providing at least one stall per beneficiary or per household, we would be precluding them from having reasonable access to the rest of Honolulu. So unfortunately, I'm not prepared to answer your question about exactly what's in BMX3, but I will say that we stand behind how we size the amount of parking. This all, of course, in addition to the fact that financing affordable housing projects is very delicate, and there is a maximum amount of parking stalls that you can afford to build, especially when they're $40,000 to $50,000 a piece.
Wouldn't it be just cheaper to have no parking?
It certainly would.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Kiana, any question for Mr. Robinson? No? Okay. Oh, would you like, okay, no. Okay, anyone else wanting to ask the applicant any questions? No? Okay, Chair Waters,
Real
please.
quick, I'm in total support because we don't often get projects building for people at 30% AMI or even 60% AMI. So thank you for doing this. But may I ask, how do you get it done? Because when we ask other developers to do it, they say it doesn't pencil out. And when we're talking about 60% AMI, that's a single person making $55,000 a year. That's like your average city employees. So you're building for people who live and work here, which is great. 60% AMI for 2 people is 62,000. 60% AMI for 3 people is 70,000. So we're really talking about workforce housing. And I love that. But how do you do it? Like, can you share that with the other people in the room so that we can get more units built at this level? Right? Because if you look at 140% AMI, which the state defines as affordable, somebody making 140% AMI is 128,000. 128,000. Not too many people can making 128,000, and that's called affordable. So I want to just highlight that and thank you guys for building at 60% AMI and 30% AMI, because as long as I've been here for 4 years now, we rarely see people coming in building at 30% AMI and 60% AMI. And by the way, 30% AMI is a single person making $27,500 a year, right? And somebody making that amount of money, there's not that many units out there in Honolulu. So thank you again. It really wasn't a question, more of a comment. But thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions for Mr. Robinson or the applicant? If not, Director Apuna?
Aloha Chair, committee members, we are very supportive of this project. So I'm here for any questions.
Okay, any questions for Director Apuna? Just one question in regards to the stalls, bicycle stalls. Is that an issue?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
I could clarify a couple of
Yes.
things. So the deletion of the GET exemption, that was not DPP. And then the parking,
Yes.
there is no parking requirement for this project.
Okay, great. So that's why I carved out the GET and the DCAB, because it's not, city responsibility. But do we have the authority? I'll ask maybe Corporation Counsel later to get some clarification. Okay, thank you. Next, we have Ms. Iseri Matsubara. Denise, maybe you can clarify for us with this 201H statute that we have the power to exempt general excise taxes or waive general excise.
Good morning, Chair, members of the committee. Denise Iseri Matsubara, Executive Director for the Office of Housing. I'm going to defer that question to the legal counsel involved to determine who has that authority, but I did want to voice strong support for this project. The mayor is already on record with strong support for this project, but for me personally, this project has been contemplated nearly 2 decades when I was at DHHL, so I'm really, really happy to see it starting to come to fruition. And to get back to Councilmember Waters' question about 30% AMI, what makes it pencil is the rental housing revolving fund, the gap financing from the state. It's a requirement to have at least 5% of the project at the 30% AMI level. The rental housing revolving fund combined with the private activity bonds and the low-income housing tax credit is what makes it all work. So that's kind of how you stack it to make it financeable.
Okay, any questions for the former executive director of the Hawaii Housing Finance Development Corporation, which I've worked very well with her? Any questions for her? Okay, if there's no further questions, maybe proceed on, members.
Thank you for the opportunity.
For the applicant, Kaloa, I'm a little disappointed. Your presentation was excellent, and it's not about your presentation. I'm just wondering, where is our landlord? Where is our landlord in strong support of this project? Would you like to respond to that? No.
They did submit written testimony.
Yeah, but written testimony is very difficult to ask questions to a person that's not here.
Our partners over at DHHL, so first of all, I cannot speak for DHHL, but I will say that our partners at DHHL are extremely supportive of this project. They have been the entire way, and I think I may need to take some fault for that because I may have suggested that written testimony was sufficient, and I apologize to you, Chair, for that.
No, Mr. Robinson, throughout my 2.5 years, I really want the state to be a part of this type of a discussion.
Yes, sir.
And is it better as far as improving our educational perspective of what we're doing for housing for all? And for some of the members who have never been on the state side, they'll never get that experience as far as working with DHHL. So, no, I think Mr. Watson is doing a great job. I think both Chair and I went to his dedication. And I forget what project that was in Moilili also. So just keep up the good work. I think you've got a lot of accolade. But the big issue for me is finding out, can we this city council grant you the exemption on the general excise tax and the decab and others. So we hope to get some clarification on that.
If I may very briefly, the exemption from general excise tax is, we're not asking the council to approve an exemption for general excise tax. And if you read DPP's original resolution, they don't say that we're asking for an exemption from general excise tax. What they're saying is that pursuant to 201H, this project is entitled to exemptions from general excise taxes. What we're asking for is that it be written into the resolution so that there's no confusion at the staff level. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Members, any further discussion, or can we proceed on? Okay, let's proceed on. Well, oh, Esther, I'm sorry, please, Esther.
No, my fault. Chair, I just wanted to say, I didn't have any questions because I met with them recently. I'm very excited about this project. It's about time that DG Chow has to be thinking outside of the box with regard to addressing the complexity of housing needs for Hawaiian homeland beneficiaries. And so it's my hope that DG Chow and other developers can replicate this type of project throughout the state, apart from their robust effort to put people into single-family homes. And I just would also wanted to comment with regard to your comment, Kaloa, you're being very diplomatic. I agree with Chair Say that the Department of Hawaiian Homeland should be here. We all know Chair Cully Watson because he served before, but he has other leadership there. This is a big project. So that's not your job to tell them. So this is more a message that next time show up. That's all, okay? And that's for everybody else there. Kamehameha School shows up when it's their project. The landlord, as well as the developer or the agent, should be present for major projects. But anyway, good job.
Okay, thank you very much. May we proceed on, members? We will now proceed to remote testimony. Madam Clerk, do we have any remote testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, is there anyone else standing by remotely to testify?
Chair, there are none.
Great. Now we'll proceed with in-person testimony. Well, we have Ms. Kathy Mitchell from the Board of Water Supply. Nice to see you again. Oh.
Aloha, Chair and members of the Zoning Committee. Kathy Mitchell with the Board of Water Supply. The Board of Water Supply, for the most part, supports the proposed CD amendments to the City Council Resolution 23-160. We submitted our written testimony with a suggested amendment. For the purpose of consistency, the BWS suggests an amendment to the provision on page 3, item 8, which requests a deferral from sections 1-102 and 2-202 subsection 2 and 2-203 subsection 3. The latter, 2-203 subsection 3, pertains to water meter installations. So by deleting that section, the rest of the language in the provision would be consistent because it reads, to allow a deferral from the payment of water system facility charges and installation of water service fees until the installation of the water meter. So you need to install the water meter, not defer it, install the water meter so you can have water access. And I just want to bring to your attention, I've said this before, the BWS board adopted Resolution 889 in 2018, which was to go and terminate, it provides for waivers for affordable housing, and it ended in June 30th, 2023. But the BWS board has decided to continue that program until decided otherwise.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mitchell.
Thank you.
Any questions for the members? So that's another amendment we have to consider the deferral until the certificate of occupancy. Okay. So may we proceed on, members? Mr. Panimatoga?
Aloha, Chair, Senior members of the committee. Pane Metong III, Community Liaison for the Operating Engineers Industry Stabilization Fund. You have my written testimony in support of this resolution in CD1. Just talking with our membership in regards to this project, they are ecstatic and very happy that the HHL has decided to build other projects outside of the traditional areas on the west side. It's great to have Native Hawaiians in all communities in the state. And so we support this project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Manitoga? Okay, Mr. Nate Kinney.
Chair and members, Nathaniel Kinney, Hawaii Regional Council of Carpenters. We are also in support of this project, which is, I mean, we all know that we're in a housing crisis, and I think probably the saddest part about the housing crisis is that Native Hawaiians are bearing the brunt of a lot of this, and we see this project as fitting with low income and rental, which is probably very suited for this population, and it is an innovative product that I think is coming online, and we are in support of this. I do wish, though, that we could clear up this issue about general excise tax exemptions, as well as the incongruity of state housing rules versus county housing rules. I think these are some of the things that pop up and become barriers for the building of affordable housing. So we would hope that the department, as well as the council, could work with the developer to make sure that what is clearly a worthwhile project receives all of the exemptions and all of the fee waivers as possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Kinney? If not, last but not least, we have Ms. Young. Can you summarize your support in or opposition to this measure?
Yes, Chair. Angela Melody Young testifying on behalf of CARES in strong support. So I concur with Councilmember Kia Aina. This is a good model for others to copy. Hale Mo'iliili is a very valuable project for the DHHL waitlist. And it is being built by a private developer, so it does not need a lot of taxpayer subsidy because it is not a public housing project funded by the city or the state. And actually, Director Kali Watson from DHHL and a few representatives, including Rep. Holt from Business Development, the Business Development Chair, and Rep. Tarnas, Judiciary and Hawaiian Affairs Chair, met during a working group meeting as per the Act 279 last month. And in the pipeline, 7 offers are under review. DHHL accepted 4 with proposals A, B, C, D. They vary in their location and acquisition cost, with Project D, if DHHL can get it to contract, it will expend $193 million, and then it will involve getting another $21 million released from budget from the finance chair and the governor.
Okay, Ms. Young, can you summarize?
Yes.
In strong support.
So this project will also contribute a lot to the things that was discussed at the DHHL working group, and overall, yeah, I hope that the $600 million, which is funding appropriated from the 2022 legislative season, can be put to use in a good way. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, Gino Segura.
Chair and council members, Gino Soquena, Executive Director for the Hawaii Building and Construction Trades Council, in support. We need more projects like this, affordable housing projects, which also will bring more much-needed construction jobs for Hawaii's construction industry. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further questions? Okay. Is there anyone else wishing to testify in person? If there is no persons to testify in person, at this point in time, we are in discussion. If there is no discussion, the chair would like to recommend that Resolution 23-160 be amended to the Committee Draft 1 listed on the agenda addendum of OCS 2023-0686, 2023/7/21/2023 at 2:15 p.m. Yeah. At this point, the members, are we, oh, excuse me, staff wants me to also make a request as a verbal amendment in incorporating BWS's recommendation. Okay. And for the clarification for the members who are here and the general public, we are also going to address the issue in regards to the general excise tax exemption, the DCAB, Disabilities Council fee exemption with the Corporation Council. Okay? Because those are two state programs. But for today, we'll be incorporating the border water supply deferral. Okay, language. So is there any discussion, objections, or reservations? Hearing none, the resolution has been amended to a CD1. The chair then recommends that Resolution 23-160, CD1, be reported out for adoption at this time. Any discussion, any objections or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Well, Mr. Robinson, best wishes to you and the Department of Hawaiian Homelands, and at least we've got another 200 units in the pipeline.
On behalf of Stanford Car Development and Honolulu, the applicant, and DHHL, thank you for this opportunity and for your time.
Councilmember Wire, any thoughts for Mr. Robinson? Any advice? He's one of the young ones.
Also a freshman, I'll defer to you, Chair.
Okay, Councilmember Kiaina, any thoughts for Mr. Robinson? Advice? No, he did a great, fantastic job. Moving on to the last of the agenda, because we have to get out by 1 o'clock, Chief, we have another hearing. Okay, let's push it as quickly as possible. Moving on to agenda item number 8, Resolution 23-62. This resolution approves a conceptual plan for an interim plan development transit project for 1538 Kapilani LLC to redevelop 4,166 square feet of land zone BMX3 Community Business Mixed-Use District with a mixed-use development project in the Ala Moana Neighborhood Board Transit-Oriented Development Plan area located at 1538 Kapilani Boulevard and identified as tax map key 2-3-021:006. Members, we have posted to the agenda a proposed committee draft 1 version of the resolution that was approved by the committee at its meeting on June 21st, 2023, and was the subject of a public hearing at the council meeting on July 12th of 2023. For your information, a summary of the amendments is listed on the agenda. Members, we have listed on the agenda addendum and a proposed committee draft 1 version of the resolution of OCS 2023-06888/7/21/23 at 3:49 p.m. For your information, a summary of the amendments is listed on the agenda addendum. Members, I would also like to highlight that in the proposed committee draft 1 listed on the agenda addendum, the affordability period for the 101 affordable units to be rented to households earning 80% and below of the AMI has been increased from 30 years to 60 years. Joining us in the council chamber is Isaiah Sato from RM Towel Corporation, the applicant's agent who is available for questions. Mr. Sato.
Thank you, Councilmember Say, Councilmember Wire, Councilmember Cordero, and Councilmember Kiaina online. I want a special mahalo to Councilmember Say and his staff for working closely with us on CD1 for this project. So I'm Isaiah Sato from RM Towel Corporation, the agent for the developer JL Capital, and we support the CD1.
Okay.
As Councilmember Say mentioned, we are providing 331 for-sale units and 101 affordable rental units, and those will be restricted at 80% AMI for a term of 60 years. So that's 2 times the 30-year length that we had before. We'll also be providing 40 bike share stations, 10 car share stalls in easement to the city for public access. as well as these affordable housing units there. So I just really quickly wanted to point out that the existing sites, the 1538 site is a one-story commercial building, the 765 Amana site is a commercial building, and the 1564 Kalakau site is a two-story residential. So regarding tenants, there's only about 6 tenants, excuse me, on that site, and the developer intends to work with them to find housing there. One last thing I wanted to mention was that there is no hotel component on this project. It's completely a residential project, and it is 100% privately funded. So the market and the affordable units are all privately funded by the developer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Sato? Yes, please, Councilmember Cordero.
Mr. Sato, what are your thoughts about increasing the affordability from 30 to 60 years?
I mean, I wanted to mahalo Chair Say's staff. I mean, we worked really closely with the council staff as well as the developer to come up with a program that's able to provide a housing product that's much needed here, that's financially feasible and constructible for the development team as well. So we're supportive of the CD1. Thank you. And the 60 years.
Any further questions, Councilmember Cordero? Nope, that's it. Okay, any further questions? Oh, Councilmember Tyler DeSantos Tam, we are on Resolution 23-62, the last item on the agenda. Okay. If there is no further questions, Mr. Sato, thank you very much. We can go on to Director Don Takeuchi Apuna.
Thank you, Chair. I think this committee is aware of DPP's original concerns. We do think the affordability period increased to 60 years is an improvement, but we are supportive of this project as providing affordable housing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the director? If not, moving on to the Executive Director of Housing, Ms. Denise Isera Matsubara. Oops.
Good morning again, Chair, members of the committee, Denise Useri Matsubara for the Office of Housing. I just want to take us back to demand. The demand for housing, is 46.5% for for-sale housing. That's around 10,300 units over a 5-year period, and 53.5% for rent, roughly 11,860 units. The need for rent at 80% AMI and below is very acute. We all know that. However, the only program of scale to help finance housing at this level is the Federal Low-Income Housing Tax Credit Program. And this program, as you know, is very oversubscribed. One of the questions that came up is how much in terms of gap financing is needed to finance at the lower levels, so 60% AMI and below. Based on last year's award at the state HHFDC, it runs about $155,000 a unit in terms of rental housing revolving funds per unit and $284,000 in private activity bonds. So for every $100 million in bonds, you can have maybe only about 350 units produced. For every 100 million in rental housing revolving funds, it could generate maybe 650 units. So those are just guide figures to illustrate how much subsidy in the way of gap financing is needed in order to do this. But LIHTC is the only program of scale around. In the absence of LIHTC, developers really need to count on the market for sale units to help cover that financing, because the cost to build an affordable and the cost to build non-affordable is not too much difference. The cost is going to be the cost. Somewhere, something has to make up the difference between the price you sell at and the price, the cost of the construction. So I guess, I just want to say that we're on record supporting a mix of housing, these rental income projects at 80% AMI and below that don't they're not going to get the small grant program under Bill 1. They really are going to need to count on the for sale units to help make up that gap financing because there's nothing else. So that's just the point that I wanted to make, and I thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Matsubara. Any questions for Ms. Matsubara? So, Ms. Matsubara, I have a question. I think for us, for the record, I think the general public should be aware that Hawaii has always been a capital short state, right, for investment purposes. And my years, I thought we in state government and county government would have provided more, like the Hawaii Public Housing Authority. And for me, coming from Pololo Housing is a prime example. Throughout Oahu, I haven't seen the increase, and I'm not blaming anyone, but in the number of units. For us here, born and raised, Council Member Cordero as KPT, they came before this body, right? Kuyo Park Terrace, Mayor Rights, etc. And the Kalakaua housing, that was a senior housing, that was state also. But other than that, I thought the past years, Lanakila housing would have really gone through, but they came before us too for a 2-1-H exemption. What I wanted to share to the public and to the audience is the fact that government cannot do it all for all. And that's where we have to make some determination. I was very hurt last year. If you recall, we had a city charter amendment in setting aside some portions of the county revenues for housing, and that died also. So my thoughts are, how can we sustain ourselves knowing that we cannot control the costs of development of housing? Really. Earlier this morning, we had a group in regards to the, for instance, Kaiolani project, sharing with us that, gee, every year, the cost goes up in regards to construction. And maybe it's material, labor, etc. But is there a way that we can somehow grasp that and say, it cannot be $1,200 per square foot or $1,300 a square foot for these type of apartments or condominiums, but for the residential side, it's the same thing. So the concern is, like I shared with one person, and it was at a neighborhood board. You don't want to see people like I am Tongi getting priced out of paradise. So we collectively, I think, have to come together, but more importantly, I hope the governor's working group will come up with some answers to it, because you're correct. It cannot be all government subsidy to really fill the gap of who we like to provide these housing to. Tyler, any thoughts, Vice Chair? No? Esther, any thoughts you have about how we can address the cost of housing in the state of Hawaii tied to this particular measure? They're trying their best on the exchange ratio as far as 101 units for the 300 units. And that's where I tell the general public, that's the choices we gotta make, hard choices, right? And those are the community benefits that we are trying to ask the developer or the applicant for. But you have any thoughts working with the state and now with the county? Are we much more efficient? Much more hands-on?
I think I would need more time than just a couple minutes to explain, but it's going to take a number of different strategies, from not only investing in affordable housing, it's going to be taking a look at our financing programs, maximizing what the state has. Now the city has to coordinate a lot closer because it's going to issue its own private activity bonds, but we want to work closely with the state on that. It's going to be looking at some of our policies, some of our own administrative rules and our own control that affect housing. It affects the rent ceiling. It affects the eligibility. We have to look at, are some of our policies and our ordinances actually generating housing? I think it's it's actions like those, evaluations, self-evaluations, it's investments. It's going to be collaborating with the state, especially on TOD, as we look at infrastructure improvements and development. So a lot of coordination involved, but where we can cut the time down for processing, and I know DPP is looking into this, and they're taking, historical problems and now trying to address the roots of those problems. And I think the benefits of that will show in the coming years. But to answer your question, Chair, there's a number of things that can and are activities that are being worked on, but there's no silver bullet, and I think we all know that. But I think as we take incremental steps and we work closer with the state and also with the federal government, at the federal government level, the low-income housing tax credit program itself, I think President Biden is looking at increasing the small state minimum to over 4 million, which will be the first time if that goes through. It's also about reducing the bond test on projects from 50% on the private activity bond to 25%. So it's activities like that or actions like that that will really help move the needle on, especially for low-income rentals.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Kiaina.
Chair Say, thank you for your question. I wasn't prepared for it, but now that I heard Denise talking, it made me think a little bit. When as she said, all of us need to figure out various ways at all levels of government and the private sector of how to get things done. But clearly, as is evidenced by the rental project regarding the DHHL, we need to realize that we should be tapping into all avenues that increase affordable housing units. And the DHHL property is a perfect example. It shouldn't be a Hawaiian project. Putting Hawaiians in homes decreases the housing inventory for everyone else. So I just want to say that we're very fortunate to have Denise with us at the city, because I think that she brings a lot of experiences, and she also has worked with all of the stakeholders that were here today, and I'm looking forward to her providing some further guidance. I do want to talk a little bit about federal grants capacity. I have been a critic of the counties and the state of Hawaii with regard to leaving its tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars on the table, including for housing. For the bipartisan infrastructure law, I told DHHL over and over again, with a favorable administration, to go and get a sliver of infrastructure funding for housing directly for Hawaiian homelands, and they didn't do that. And so now we got to compete for it. In June, when I came to DC, I'm in DC now, I met with a lot of officials, including at the White House, on the Inflation Reduction Act and the bipartisan infrastructure law. And this fall, we are going to be having a federal infrastructure workshop in Hawaii for all of the counties and the state, and a lot of the government agencies who deal with affordable housing should be players in that. So I'm just saying that you have all of the experts in that room right now. And I just wanted to share my mana'o about where I feel that we could do better. And I think that we have a lot to learn from each other. And I think that as we build capacity on how to better compete for a lot of federal funding available for not just housing, but infrastructure, I think we'd be better off. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay. If there is no further discussion, Madam Clerk, let's proceed on with remote testimony.
Chair, there are none.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else standing by remotely at this time?
Chair, there are none.
Okay. We'll now proceed with in-person testimony. Whoa, we have a lot. Clerk, okay, let's start off with Jeff Matsusugu.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the council. I'm here again representing 4 labor management cooperation funds. That's the painters, the drywall tapers, the glazers, and the floor layers. Obviously, we're in strong support of this project because of the jobs it means for our members. You have my written testimony. There's just one thing I wanted to emphasize from that, which is the affordable housing aspect of this measure. You know, we understand the need and the desire for more affordable housing, but I think we need to be careful about how much we demand from developers. You know, we know from our past experience in neighboring counties, Maui County, Kauai County, what happens when the demands become too high. What happens is affordable housing stops because all development stops. So I think we need to keep that in mind as we consider this measure and be mindful and learn from the past so we don't repeat those mistakes.
Okay,
Thank you,
thank you
Chair.
very much, Jeff. Gino Sequina?
Thank you, Chair, Council members. Gino Sequena, Executive Director of the Hawaii Building and Construction Trades Council, which represents 18 construction trade unions throughout the state of Hawaii, in strong support. You know, and echoing the previous speakers, you know, although affordable housing is important, this developer is doing more than what they need to do to meet the minimum, and we just got to be careful. Like Jeff Matsusugo had just mentioned, you know, these guys, they have a requirement, they do more, and it's unfortunate that some people are even wanting even more than that. We in construction, we want more affordable housing, more housing projects, more construction. We want our members to be able to afford the project, to live in those projects also. But we just got to be careful. Again, in support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Nathaniel Kinney, can
Chair and members, Nathaniel Kinney, Hawaii Regional Council of Carpenters. I'm probably sounding like a broken record coming up here and continually trying to support more affordable housing for our community and more housing inventory in general. But again, it needs to be said, we're in a housing crisis. The developer is going above and beyond with the portion of the project that needs to be affordable, and we're in full support of this project. And I just hope that the people that are against this project, I think they need to start coming up with other means of showing their frustration and maybe being a little bit more positive force for good and testifying for some of the other projects. If they have a difference with this developer, that's on them. But I know I see you guys all the time supporting affordable housing projects, and I feel like we're being part of the solution. So that being said, thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Pane Maetoga, the third.
Aloha, Chair Say, members of the committee. Before I give my testimony, can I have all the construction guys stand up? Can you all stand up? Stand up. Thank you. So I'm here on behalf of the Stabilization Fund. But as you can see, we have our members, our people from construction industry out here in force to support this project. We are in a crisis. We need affordable housing. We need to be part of the solution. It's important that us working guys that are standing behind me have places for our kids, our grandkids, so that they can live and they can work and they can stay here on the island. So with that said, we are here in support for this project because we are in a crisis and we need housing now. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Maetoga? Okay, Mr. Ivan Ho. Ivan?
Aloha, Chair Say and committee members. My name is Ivan Ho. I'm with Unite Here Local 5. Thank you for this chance to testify on Resolution 23-62 and its proposed amendment CD1. I want to acknowledge and support what the chair and committee did when it proposed an amendment to extend affordability requirements from 30 years to 60 years. The amendment shows responsiveness to constituents. It's an encouraging example of lawmakers using their discretionary powers to benefit the community. So thank you. It's a good step, but a small step in the right direction. We need more. As explained in our previous testimonies, 1538 Kapiolani is still an example of why luxury condo projects in the city are often problematic. We need City Council to hold developers to higher standards. The developer of 1538 will likely appear before City Council again. JL Capital acquired parcels further down the street on Kapiolani Boulevard across from the convention center. You know, if JL Capital or its CEO, Tim Lee, comes in front of council again for entitlements and exemptions, I hope council will have higher expectations at that point. Lastly, I just want to I hope we can rely on our lawmakers to negotiate for maximum community benefit, instead of just accepting the framework developers propose and negotiating on the margins for insufficient community benefits. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ivanhoe. Mary Glenn Burke.
Hi, hello everyone. My name is Mary Glenn Forte, housekeeping of Modern. I cannot afford a buying house or condo because the rent is so high. Even I have 2 jobs because the mortgage or rent is so very, very high. I have 3 kids, and I make sure someday I don't like my kids is homeless like that. And I don't like to experience to sleeping in the street like that. Now my kids, they sacrifice to make apply to job, and because they saw me every day to go to work, given then a go of life. And one more thing, I'm here to standing today, but I don't know what happened to me tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Carmelita Miligreto.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, all the committee, City Council. Good afternoon. I'm Carmelita Milagrito. I'm working at the Alamoana Hotel and Gahala Hotel. I'm asking you to demand more from big developers. City Council, please push developers to build truly affordable housing. If we want to solve the housing crisis, we have to make developers do more. And I want my kids to be able to live in Hawaii because, and the committee has the ability to do this. I'm working 2 jobs. I'm a renter and we're living paycheck to paycheck. Last February, I just got the notice from the housing, got the notice of eviction for some reason. And it's really hard to find place to rent because it's really, really high and expensive. It's really hard to find a new place to rent. So I'm demanding to give us the community benefits instead of giving a high-rise building. And those who are not living in Hawaii are the ones who wanted to live in this Hawaii. Hawaii is our place. This is for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It is well taken. Next, we have Ray Miguel.
Hello, elective city councilman. My name is Ray Miguel. I'm a hotel worker. We lived in Kalihi Valley. It's very congested. I have a simple message. Invest, build more single-family homes for a husband and wife so they can have their own housing to live, to have children, educate, work, retire, and live the American dream in our Honolulu County. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ray. Is there anyone else here to testify on this measure? Ben, okay.
Thank you, Chair and members. My name is Ben Sadowski with Local 5, and
working people need the city to fundamentally change its relationship with developers. Too many projects have been approved over the years without significant enough benefit to the community. With this project, we feel the city can do better. We really do, as Ivan said, appreciate the movement that has happened so far in extending the affordability period. I think that's really good. However, we think that the developer should have a definite timeline for when the affordable units will be complete. They could and should commit to not charging the maximum possible rent. They could add more units and also make the units larger. I don't think that any of these things are too much to ask. We're not trying to stop the project. We want to make sure that it creates the kind of construction jobs that our community needs and also allows for the kind of housing that our community needs. And I think those things are both possible, but I think it just requires us to push harder. And, if the developer is saying they're not going to do it, then that's one thing. But I think that unless that happens, I think we can continue to push and we should continue to demand more because that's what we need. Our people are in crisis in Hawaii. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, please.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, council members, vice chair. Again, my name is Joby North, Vice President of the Hawaii Laborers Union Local 368. I'm here on behalf of Peter Ganaban, our Business Manager, Secretary, Treasurer, who is not able to be here today, but we are here and we appreciate the efforts of the council, the efforts of the developer in trying to solve our housing crisis and our affordable housing problem. We stand here in support, strong support of this project, and we hope that we can continue, everyone can continue to further this step that's being taken forward with everybody's efforts. On behalf of Peter Ganaban and our nearly 5,000 members and retirees, we thank you for allowing us to be here to speak today. And again, we stand in strong support of this project. Sincerely, the Hawaii Laborers Union, Local 368. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joe. Is there anyone else? If there is no one else at this point in time, members, we are in discussion. Okay, at this point in time, if there is no discussion, the chair would like to recommend that Resolution 23-62 be amended to the Committee Draft 1 listed on the agenda addendum OCS 2023-0688/7/21/23 at 3:49 p.m. Are there any discussion, objections, or reservations? Hearing none, the resolution has been amended to a Committee Draft 1. The chair then recommends that Resolution 23-62, Committee Draft 1, be reported out for adoption. Any discussion, objections, or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. At this point in time, before we adjourn, I just wanted to say to the members of the Zoning Committee, the testifiers who came out, and to the developers, applicants, the departments, etc. Thank you very much for a very wonderful and open and free discussion. I must say this as far as being a chair here, that the relationships that we build develops how we move ahead in this state. Today, it was a very, very cordial, respectful public hearing. And that's what I really enjoyed. So thank you very much, all of you. Since there are no further business, this meeting is adjourned.